Special today. All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being with us. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you'd please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. We don't have any presentations this morning, so we'll go right into citizen input. Anybody wishing to get up and speak about anything that is not already on the agenda, please feel free to do so. Come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and we will give you 3 minutes. Please. Come on in.
I'm it.
Yeah.
Mayor, fellow commissioners, greetings. I'm Howard Gray. I live at 1617 Brook Drive in the beautiful city of Dunedin. And I just wanted to bring up some minor things that are going to go on for the next several months. So please bear with me, just a little one today. Last month on your July 13th meeting, I learned that you're going to review the Resolution 1606 at your December meeting. So I hadn't heard about that before, so I was interested in that. That is the resolution that deals with the rules on how your advisory committees are governed, or how they should proceed and do their daily business. So I'm requesting now that by the end of this month, we get an initial draft sent out to the advisory board members so that we know what it is you're looking at doing to 1606, because we may have some input. We might want to suggest something different, or we might say, yes, that's exactly what we need. So if that could be done, and then as you change it over the months until we get to December, please keep us apprised, because we're interested. And I think that kind of takes care of that. But I wanted to get into a little bit of the history of 1606. Because it's only been around in place for about 5.5 years. It was voted in February of 2016. And exactly 1 year prior to that, at a commission meeting of February 2015, Commissioner Tonga brought up the idea that he would like to be able to read draft minutes from the various advisory boards earlier than waiting 1.5 months to 6 months or so for those draft minutes to show up. And so it certainly looks to me like the genesis of 1606 was in fact that meeting where you brought up seeing the earlier drafts. What's interesting to me is the wording of the resolution didn't actually make that happen. I don't know if that ever happened. But since we're going to revisit it, I think it'd be great to take a look at that when we're reviewing it. And in the matter of just transparency, it would be nice if the various advisory board members could take a look at that. So I thank you for your time. You've been doing great work. And by the way, I want to recognize Commissioner Tonga for, did I get your name right? I was close enough?
Perfect.
Okay. I want to recognize you as being a person who can notice when the dog does not bark. And so that was true then, and it was also true of your why we're doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki, at some point, you could let us know, but I believe that we've voted to adjust our 1606 already. And I think we said we would have that brought back in December, that we weren't going to do it now, or did?
I'll have to go back and look at the
you'll advise us,
but I
because
thought
I mean,
the
I believe
discussion was that in December, which is when you look at your own rules of procedure, looking at one of the updates that was being discussed ad hoc a couple months ago. But I have
believe
to go.
we've already voted to do that, so I don't think we can undo
It was
that.
a consensus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can talk to us about the draft minutes. I know there's a concern on your end with the draft minutes. You already send out the draft minutes to be approved by the committees.
Yeah, they go
Yeah.
out with their agenda.
So I don't know that we need to send them out twice, right? But you'll put something together and advise the commission. Okay. Anyone else wish to come forward and speak? Okay. Commissioner Franny, any feedback? I'll just keep checking with you annoyingly.
No, not on that.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to consent agenda. So we have the approval of the minutes for March 12th strategic planning, May 14th budget, May 20th regular meeting, and June 6th regular meeting. We have board and committee appointments to the Committee on Aging, Firefighters Pension Fund, Hammock Advisory, and Marina Advisory. We have the grant application, grant administration for Lift Station 20 and 32. And the third amendment to the license agreement with New Singular Wireless. Are there any items to be pulled? I'll look at you first, Mo. Which one?
Yeah, I'd like to pull the budget minutes.
The budget minutes, okay. Anything else? All right, anybody else have anything to be pulled? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve all consent agenda items except for the May 14th budget workshop minutes?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Commissioner Kynes and Vice Mayor Gao. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And we'll go back to the May 14th budget workshop minutes. You're on, Mo.
Yeah, no, it's just a simple change. I already brought it to the attention of Rebecca. It's on 21-60, basically second to last paragraph. It just says, it's something I said. Board of Finance just goes on and on about Miss Kimpton. I actually said Miss Kimpton and, well, Ashley and Les, so I just wanted it to be clear. So that's all. She knows about it. She can make the adjustment. It's a
Okay, you got that?
clarification.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion?
And after we vote, can I make one comment on the minutes?
Sure. Let's do a motion to approve the budget workshop minutes.
So moved.
She should make the motion.
Commissioner Gao, or Vice Mayor Gao?
Second, but she should probably do it. She asked for it.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And Commissioner Kynes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, at some point, obviously not today, I would like the commission maybe to talk about the length of our minutes that we're doing verbatim. I know that's got a history to it. I don't totally recall all the history, but it goes way back. It seems like we're kind of unique in the verbatim and the length now that you actually have digital recordings of all the meetings that are pretty reliable and there forever. I don't know. I'm not going to ask you to answer this, everybody, but how many people read all these minutes to approve them? Because it's a lot to read. I read them because I know how that backfires if you don't have it. I mean, I read at least what I said because it's a lot to read.
That's what I do. I read what I
Anyway, so I just think we ought to talk about our methodology now that the digital recordings have changed, and it's a lot of staff time, both, well, contractually to have it done, staff to review them, us to review them, when we have the digital recording that's very reliable to be, in the future. So it sounds like a lot of communities are doing more summarized minutes, so I'd at least like to have the discussion.
Okay, and I will presume that you've kind of talked it over with Rebecca?
Yeah, I have talked about it with Rebecca. Yeah, she's aware. I think, and actually, Rebecca did a few checks for me about what other communities were doing.
Gotcha.
So
Okay, so
I
everybody.
don't know if she wants to make a comment now, but I just thought we should have that discussion.
And we were the only community doing the verbatim on the communities that we checked with, just so you know.
I can't hear
And there's a
Rebecca.
variance in length, but most of them 5, 7, 10 pages. And then, and it depends the length of the meeting, obviously, but ours were definitely quite a bit longer than any other community.
Yeah, and you guys might remember this. I mean, I remember that we were doing, well, we weren't doing verbatim, but we were doing pretty detailed minutes, and then I remember Denise coming forward at some point. Actually, it wasn't Denise, it was, who was that gal we had for like 6 months?
Ashley?
Huh?
Her name Ashley?
No, you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dark hair.
Yep.
She came forward and said, and reminded us, yeah, I don't want to say anymore, reminded us that we should probably be doing more summary, and I thought that's what had been happening, and then somewhere along the way it switched back. So I do think we had given some direction to do more summary based on what she had said to us. But again, she was only with us 6 months, so I'm sure that whatever occurred then just didn't get transferred, so. Okay, so maybe we can
Have that.
have that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, my recollection as a staff person way back was just that there was kind of a tit for tat between commissioners about what was being said, and at that time, we couldn't always count on VCR tapes, so.
Yeah, her name was CR. Remember that? CR?
CR?
Yeah, I don't
was
remember
gonna-
her last
I
name.
was thinking of Sharon.
No, it wasn't Sharon. All right, so nothing urgent, but when we have a hole, maybe we can add it to the agenda. Okay.
And just for the benefit of the commission and anyone listening, the legal requirement for minutes are that they be written. So the digital recordings can't substitute for minutes, but they do have to be written, but they only need to set forth the official actions that are taken at the meeting. So that's the legal standard.
We want better than that.
Oh, well, of course, and I know that communities do often provide more summaries, but it is not I wanted to be sure it's clear that the legal requirement is not for a verbatim transcript. And I know you all know that, but for the benefit of anyone listening too.
Probably something in the middle, but we'll have that dialogue
Yeah.
whenever it comes back. And again, maybe it's just on a short meeting that we can add it, because it's certainly not a emergency or anything. All right, thank you, Commissioner, for bringing it to our attention. All right, we'll move on to action items. We have Resolution 21-19, which is the second budget amendment. Nikki, would you please read Resolution 21-19 by title only?
Absolutely, Mayor. Resolution number 21-19, a resolution of the City of Dunedin, Florida, amending the operating and capital budgets for the City of Dunedin, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2021, and providing for an effective date hereof. And this has been reading of Resolution 21-19 by title only.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve?
So move. I have a question.
Commissioner Kynes, a second?
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor Gao. Thank you. Yes?
Yes, if we go to item C, and maybe George can answer this, because I did have a discussion with Jennifer about this. This is the Kimley Horn.
Okay, well, we're not on that one yet.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we're on the budget amendment. My apologies. I should have clarified that. All right, so that'll be the next,
That's fine.
that'll be the second after this. Okay, go ahead, Les.
Sure. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Les Tyler, the Finance Director, and I'm here with Ashley Kempton, our Budget Manager. This item before you is Resolution 2119. This is our second budget amendment for fiscal year 2021. The proposed amendments are on pages 3 through 5 of the staffing report and also listed in Exhibit C of the staffing report. The total impact on fund balance, as shown on page 3 of the staffing, for all funds is $13,379,000. I would like to briefly go over the budget amendments, starting with the general fund in the same order that it is in the staffing. The first item is in the general fund is increased expenditures by $10,900 for the fireboat hydraulic lift repair. The hydraulic lift for the fireboat, it was 6 years old. The constant salt exposure had caused corrosion in the fittings, and it needed to be replaced. The new fittings on the hose will now be stainless steel to prevent future corrosion, and this is a decrease in fund balance in the general fund. Item C, the next item in the general fund is, this is an increase in expenditures for $168,584 to reimburse the Blue Jays for the purchase of trees at the stadium and player development complex. The funds are from our tree bank reserve account, which is a restricted funding source in the general fund. A little bit of information, a little more background on that. The Blue Jays project for both the stadium and the player development complex necessitated, the removal and replacement of trees at both locations. The Blue Jays paid $250,000 into the tree bank based on our city arborist calculation of the net lost inches in trees, which is done for all development projects at the city. In negotiations for the Blue Jays project, the city agreed to use the tree bank funds by this project to offset a portion of the cost incurred for the trees that were planted as part of the project for both the stadium and the PDC sites. The total amount paid for those trees at both sites, which was provided by Gilbane and reviewed by our city arborist, was $168,583. This budget amendment is for the reimbursement from the tree bank to the Blue Jays for the cost of the trees planted at both locations. And this again is, this has no impact on available fund balance because it's restricted, but it is coming out of total fund balance in the general fund. The next item is, for the general fund, is I think maybe the one you were mentioning. This is, we have quite a few adjustments here, and one of them happens to be an increase in expenditures of $38,500 for professional services for Kimberly Horn to develop, implement the South Dunedin Character Overlay Phase 2 project. This reflects the additional costs necessary to develop the overlay framework into ordinance form for implementation. This item was presented to the City Commission and approved on July 13th, 2021 in item 2B.
Excuse me, one second. Was that where you had your question?
Yeah, I just, you know, I understand that this is, Jennifer and I had a discussion that extra money actually was brought down because we had to decide on which public meetings and how many public meetings we would have on this issue. And I think we now, you know, the budget tells what we're going to do. And I think at this point, we are considering 3 public meetings and that they will deliver an ordinance. So I think that's correct, Jennifer?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. And I wish that at some point, we could get sort of an update on where we are in that. I know it's not now, but George?
George is shaking his head over there.
We'd be happy to. We are on schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Les.
Okay. The next item and the last item in the general fund is an increase in expenditures of $43,000 to replace the HVAC at the library. The unit was damaged with a surge that happened, and it needed to be replaced immediately. The units affected the books and library materials that could be damaged due to humidity and heat, and also staff and patrons were warm on the main floor of the library. So that is a decrease in fund balance. This item has a delegated authority memo from the city manager that was approved on April 29th, 21. The next fund is a stadium fund, and we have one adjustment there, and it is to increase our revenue budget by $6,030,000 to account for the contributions from the Toronto Blue Jays in fiscal year 21 towards the project. The Toronto Blue Jays agreed to fund the additional improvements for the project that were made to the stadium and the player development complex in accordance with the Second Amendment and restated licensing agreement for the construction and renovation of the Dunedin spring training facilities, and this is an increase in fund balance in the stadium fund. And the next is our American Rescue Fund, which is a new fund that we discussed some at our budget meeting last week for fiscal year 22. But in fiscal year 21, we wanted to recognize the revenue that we're anticipating to come in this year, sometime we expect this month or next couple of weeks, we hope. This is an increase, proposed increase of $7,650,000, 7650000 to account for the estimated federal grant revenue the city will receive in fiscal year 21 for the ARPA grant. This new special revenue fund is set up to properly track the revenues and expenses that we will be receiving from this grant. The total expected funding we're expecting was $15.3 million. That number's been talked about a lot the last 6 months.
Tell us the good news, Les.
But we have good news, yes. This staffing report was completed prior to last week, but on late Thursday night and Friday morning, we received our funding agreement from the state that went to the mayor, and the amount we're receiving now, instead of 15.3, is 18.3 million.
Whoa.
So, yeah, more than we expected.
Take it.
I'll take it.
So that's good news.
Thinking about all those brick streets we can fix.
Yeah, right. Yes.
There was almost an eye roll over there from Jorge. I know you
know,
can't see
Jorge.
that, Mo, but
He doesn't even like to see it. I know.
I'm teasing.
Thanks for telling me that.
So it is.
Wait, Mo, go ahead.
No, I just said thanks for letting me know about Jorge's eye roll. I like
Yeah.
that.
Hey, I told you what time it was.
You're gonna, yeah, you're gonna pay for that, Jorge.
This is really, really, really exciting news, you know, for our community. The amount of infrastructure projects already that we're already talking about, this just adds to it on top of the ability to do affordable housing. I know we'll be talking about that, and many other
Very important.
things. It's good for the economy. It's almost like our very own little pre-stimulus or stimulus, but it's really good for our residents because, you know, like Mo always says, the basic infrastructure is what they expect from us, and we'll be able to do a lot of that for this community. So, you know, if anything good comes out of this last year and a half and what seems like will continue on for another year, who knows? This is a really good thing, so it's very exciting news.
Yeah, very good news. So we're going to, we're proposing this amendment today, and then what we'll be bringing back probably at our last amendment, we'll have two more amendments this year. We're anticipating for 21, we'll bring back and adjust this amount. The new amount will likely be $9,150,000 would be half of the allocation. So we'll likely, once we receive that money, we'll bring another BA back for that full amount to the commission.
And, you know, I just have to point out one other thing, because I know there's been a lot of concern internally, although I think we've all said that we're cautiously optimistic, but I know externally out in the community, there's been a lot of concern about our penny fund, and the addition of this money helps our penny fund even more, because there will be projects that, likely anyway, projects in the penny that will now be able to be paid for by the American Rescue Act. So, again, good news for our community.
Great, it is good news. So that's the ARPA fund. The next fund is the solid waste fund, and that's an increase in expenditures of $40,000 for the increased cost of people-ready temporary labor. This is due to an increase in bulk yard waste on the weekly routes and not enough city labor to match the demands due to driver vacancies and some unexpected illnesses, and also just training and planned time off for employees. This results in a decrease to net position in the solid waste fund, and this item was included in a delegated authority memo approved by the city manager on August 12, 2021. The next amendment is in the Marina Fund. This is an increase in expenditures budget of $475,000 to account for a transfer out of the Stormwater Fund. Some history on this. In fiscal year 20, the Stormwater Fund advanced the Marina Fund $475,000 to help cover the cost mainly of the Marina Dredging Project. The Marina Dredging Project was budgeted at $1.5 million.
I'm sorry. We have sheriffs out there and they keep pointing and peeking in here. Is there a concern? It could just be doing business. I don't know, but they're pointing in here, so it kind of freaked me out. Go ahead, Les.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. So the Marina Dredge Project in 2020 was budgeted at $1.5 million, and the actual costs were under $1.1 million. So
Terrific.
it was well under budget, which was great news. Due to the actuals being less than budget, the advance from the Stormwater Fund of $475,000 is basically now deemed unnecessary. The funding is not needed. So this is sort of an accounting entry, but this is proposing that we do an accounting transaction to reverse the interfund loan, which results in a net decrease in net position in the Marina Fund. And again, this interfund loan was approved with the adoption of the 2020 budget on September 19th, 2019. And then the last fund is the Stormwater Fund, and we've got two adjustments in that fund. The first is a transfer of funds from the pipelining project of $73,712 to the stormwater drain upgrade for fiscal year 21 milling and paving projects that included the stormwater drain gutter work. And there's no impact on fund balance with this item. It's just a transfer. And this project What prompted this was, this project was, this transfer was, this item was presented to the commission on March 16th, 2021, item 3C, which was award bid 21-1177, which was the mill and overlay various streets locations project. And the next budget amendment in the Stormwater Fund is the reverse of the Marina Fund I just mentioned, and that is increasing the revenue in the Stormwater Fund by $475,000 to account for the transfer in from the Marina Fund, and this is the opposite side of that transaction in the Marina Fund. Are there any questions? I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Questions?
I have one more question.
Sure.
You know, I was thinking about the HVAC replacements. Since, how long did these HVACs last? 10 years, 15? I mean,
I'm going to have Keith answer.
well, Keith, I mean, just briefly, is it 10 years, 15? What is it?
You
Good
heard her
morning,
briefly.
Keith Fogarty,
Just
Division Director of Public Services. Those are rooftop units, typically 15 to 18 years.
Okay, then, thank you. That is perfect. What I was wondering, I was thinking about this, and I know in the new city hall, when we put in our HVAC, we're adding special filters because they're public places. And as we go through replacing our HVAC, shouldn't we look at an upgraded system with a really good HEPA filters that, handle all sorts of different, whatever, allergens to viruses to whatever. I mean, I don't know why, if we're going to do it, we don't do it right, if it's supposed to last 18 years.
Those are being incorporated with
Good.
the new system.
Good, thank you.
Oh, come back. Now I have to ask you a question. Come back.
You told me to make a short one.
I know. My own fault. Just expanding on what Commissioner Kynes' thought is, and yes, those filters are being incorporated in. I know we adjusted what we were doing in our new city hall. Would there be, and obviously it would be an additional cost, and nobody's asking to do it at this point, but would there be something additional to the system we would need to do, like in the actual, other parts of the air conditioning system? Because the unit is not the only
Correct.
piece. So if we really wanted to be, uber careful, would there be other things that we should look at doing?
I don't want to speak on the consultant's behalf, but if Jorge's okay, we can ask the consultant to bring something back that we could just distribute.
I'm not sure we want to go that far. I was just asking off the top of your head.
It has been discussed, I could tell you that, not just for the typical system, but also for COVID protocols.
So are you guys looking into all of that?
Oh, yeah.
Or?
No, it's been discussed from the beginning.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear, is that we were discussing it, and that's going to be
It's
part-
not your typical system, I'll put it that way.
Okay. Like and I'm sorry, I keep forgetting the word,
Yep.
the ductwork and all of that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
No, it's incorporated into the ductwork, it's not at the mechanical system itself.
That's where the COVID protocols come in?
Correct.
Good morning. Jorge Keith is Deputy City Manager. My understanding from talking with Doug Hutchins previously and Harvard Jolly that they had done this analysis. They
For
did the
City
whole-
Hall,
for
right.
City Hall, they did the whole cost-benefit analysis, and they looked at, the installation of the different equipment, and that was incorporated into the City Hall project.
Right. And what I'm referring to is what Commissioner Kynes brought up, is as we were replacing these HVAC systems, we're basically replacing the unit. I'm saying, are we, or should we,
Looking at the whole.
looking at the whole picture as we're doing this to make our buildings, the air
Filtration.
more purified?
Yes. The short answer is yes.
Okay.
Not just, we just did the same thing at the community center. We just replaced the chillers, but in 22's budget, there's $500,000 set aside to replace the rooftop units. We're also looking at the ductwork throughout the building. If you remember, 2020, we had complaints about the exercise
Oh,
room.
yeah.
That ductwork is looked at to be replaced with some air purifiers.
Okay. All right, so you guys will keep an eye on that, because I do think it's a good point that Commissioner Kynes is bringing up, that, it's not to say go do it all right now, but as we're doing it, even if we have to spend a little extra money, we keep thinking, okay, this is a once-in-a-lifetime event, except this lifetime is lasting a lifetime. This event is lasting a lifetime, so, it's better to be safe than sorry, so it's a good point. Anybody else have any questions for Les on these budget adjustments? Commissioner Franny, anything?
No, nothing on this.
Commissioner Torga, you good? I did just want to comment, as you went through all of this, we have voted or given direction in some form or another for all of these things. So for anybody listening, all we're doing is sort of finalizing all the things we've already given direction for. So this is not anything new. I think I was really happy to hear about the marina, that started out to be a real controversial project in itself. And, there were some foo-bars along the way, but in the end, we finished it earlier than projected and under budget and didn't have to borrow. And those were concerns expressed across the board from not only, again, internally, but externally. And we were able to accomplish this and address those concerns. So good job, everybody. Okay, any public input on this? All right, we'll come back to the commission. Any final comments? Commissioner Kynes, you were the maker?
I have no further.
Okay, and Commissioner Gao? Okay, all right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Franny?
Aye.
Commissioner Torga?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gao?
Aye.
Commissioner Kynes?
Aye.
Mayor Brzezowski?
Aye, and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Les.
Thank you.
And now we're on to item 3B, which is the award of custodial services bid, 21-1186. We'll turn to Keith and Paul and allow you to do your presentation, and then we'll go to questions after the presentation.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, Keith Hoganey, Division Director, Public Services. I guess this is going to be the award for custodial services citywide. This was released back June 25th for bid. The award came back July 27th. We had sent out 28 proposals. We had 8 responses. 6 of the 8 were ruled non-responsive for several reasons. The lowest bid was American Janitorial Services in the amount of $631,692.12. Or correction, $613,294.12. All their references came back favorable. American Janitorial has done work for us before. The services back then, in 2014, were good. The reason that they didn't get renewed is they were outbid before. So that group is the current contractor that we have today. This contractor was not allowed to bid because their services just fell off the charts. We did send them a letter that they were considered non-responsive to the current contract. They understood that, so they were not allowed to bid on this current contract. Staff is recommending award of the contract. The budget for this 22 contract is $600,100. It will require a adjustment to the 22 budget in the amount of $7,200, and staff will be happy to answer any questions. There is some items attached to your staffing that we'll be happy to answer any questions. Before we do go, I do want to thank quite a few people. It took a village to put this staffing together.
It was huge. Big.
I,
And it was very comprehensive, by the way.
but I do want to thank Paul. I want to thank Jorge. I want to thank Phyllis. I want to thank Jocelyn, the gentleman sitting over hiding in the corner, Ismail. I want to thank all these people, and especially Tanya Hart, my administrative coordinator. It took a lot to put this together. The bid specifications changed dramatically with the
The price
input of.
changed dramatically too, by the way.
Well, it did, but, you know, if you look at the budget for this, we were not far off, $7,200. This group, American Janitorial, bid this back in 2014. Their bid came in at almost $300,000. So the cost of the service has changed dramatically. Our square footage has not. So it just goes to show you, this current contractor bid this at $319,000 3 years ago. Our lowest bidder was just under $300,000. So, but I do want to thank Phyllis. I do want to thank Jocelyn. They were part and parcel to putting this bid specification together. They have the largest square footage in the city. So their input was, you know, crucial to making sure that their needs are met, you know, with this. You know, I'll let you guys, if you have questions for me.
And, go ahead.
And one thing I just wanted to remind everybody of, this is to go into effect October 1st of this year. So we're looking at about 6 weeks from now. So that'll be the transition period then from the current custodial contractor to the new custodial contractor.
And just one other thing, and then I'm going to go to Commissioner Franny, because this is her baby, and I'm going to give her the floor. So be patient 1 second, Commissioner Franny. Jennifer, this was one of the things we had talked about during the budget workshop, and this was as our follow-up item, and you mentioned that in your staffing. So anything you want to add from that perspective as we go into our dialogue?
Absolutely. We did touch upon this during our budget workshop, our third budget
Yep.
workshop, I believe. And Commissioner Franny had requested that we attach the hybrid method. And the hybrid method then would be some city employees who are doing certain areas, and then the contractor is doing the other areas. And the intent was to provide, you know, a level of service, that personal level of service in those areas, our larger facilities. We're not recommending that today. That's provided to all of you simply is the information that Commissioner Franny was requesting. We are recommending that the City Commission approve this contract, and we move forward with this with American.
And with that piece of paper that you gave us, I think, I'm sorry, I didn't open it up here, but I think it would be considerably more, because that was done in 2021 as an estimate.
Correct.
The hybrid would.
Yes.
I don't remember the numbers.
Yeah, it was
but
in 2024, fiscal 21. So yes, since
Gotcha.
then costs have increased as well.
Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Franny, because I'm sure you have lots of questions or comments. So you've got the floor, girl.
I do. Well, I've asked some of the questions to Jennifer.
You got to talk
today.
louder. I'm sorry, it's
Okay.
hard to hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Does that help? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I talked to Jennifer a little bit yesterday about this. One question I have, Keith, is okay, so the hybrid method, we basically, you're estimating is at 784,000?
Correct.
So, and the bid is coming in at 613,000 for the first year. Let me ask this first. The 784,000, my understanding was that's an updated number. You all looked at it and re-vetted it out and updated it.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's not an old number.
Well, that's updated as of not the staff cost, but that's updated for the contractor cost based on the current contract. So I would say it's halfway updated.
Wait, okay, I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm confused now, too.
Okay, sorry.
I thought okay, so the hybrid is both using the contractor and using staff, and you're saying we'd have to update for the added cost of what the contract would cost? Is that what you're saying?
No, we did update for the contractor costs. What has not been updated or taken into consideration would be staff costs and the ability, looking forward to the $15 an hour minimum wage increases, as these positions are less than that. So I guess it's more of a caveat than anything, that yes, it has been updated with the current contractor custodial costs, but to make this a fully fledged hybrid, we'd have to look to the future and also increase staff costs.
Okay, but when you say that, I mean, I don't want to really judge it by the $15 an hour because that's a citywide issue we're going to have to face. Okay, all right, so it still needs vetting. What I don't see, so if we go with the contract, which I know you're recommending that, for the $613,000 for the first year, and it increases the two subsequent years, what's not included there is we'd still have the coordinator, right? And that's another $58,000, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So that brings it to 671,000 as a comparable to the 784. I guess, is there anything else that we're going to be keeping other than just the coordinator that's a true cost of the contract methodology?
No.
No, I don't believe so. I'm not quite sure what you were saying there for a second.
What I'm saying is, okay, so if I'm not really comparing 613,000 to 784,000 because we're going to keep the coordinator. It costs 58,000, right?
Correct.
So then that's added to the 613,000. So I'm just trying to get to an apples to apples
Okay.
comparison.
You're correct.
671,000 is the
It's
application.
Is there anything else other than the coordinator that is a true cost that we wouldn't be getting rid of?
No, there's
No.
nothing additional.
What are we doing with the gym? And do we still have an additional cleaning that's going on at the community center gym?
The gym is separate from this contract.
And that would always be separate even if we did a hybrid?
That's correct. Looking at Jocelyn, she's shaking her head yes. That's separate.
And we wouldn't see if we had our own dedicated person at the community center, we wouldn't need to do that? I mean, it's something you need to think about.
I mean, that's a decision Jocelyn and Vince would make. That's obviously something we could incorporate. If we were to put a full-time person at the gym, that's obviously something we could discuss. That person
I'm not
could take over
suggesting
that
I'm just
service at
suggesting
the
if you
gym.
have a full-time person at the community center, it would seem like the gym could be handled better. What do we pay for the gym cleaning?
Jocelyn's
Jocelyn,
not
why don't you
sure.
come on up? Because it seems like there'll be some questions. In order for her to hear, maybe you can stand here at the, okay, go ahead. That's fine. Welcome.
Good morning.
What do we pay?
Good morning, Commission. My name's Jocelyn Broadhead, Recreation Superintendent. Roughly, we pay, I believe it's $200 a month for the additional cleaning services, but I can confirm and touch base and make sure that that is an accurate number.
What'd you say?
200 a month.
Okay.
Okay. No, thanks, Jocelyn. Okay. What is, I mean, obviously, I want to go with what staff's recommending today. I'm not going to put our Jocelyn or Phyllis on the spot today. Keith, I basically understand where they've been over the years, and we're not getting the service we need. Keith, a couple questions. It's my understanding that we've had this company before, and they failed. So first of all, is that true? And if it's true, what makes us think they're not going to fail this time?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. Since 2008, since we put this out to bid, the first contractor lasted 30 days. They walked off the job after 45 days because they just underbid it drastically. USSI was the next group that we brought in. They lasted 3 years. They got outbid by American Janitorial. They kept it for the full 5 years. They got outbid by American Facilities, which is the contractor that we have today. They underbid it, and they didn't underbid it for the first 3 years. The decline, in my opinion, takes place in the third year. This contractor that we have currently never, ever took advantage of the CPI increase. I told Paul, told Jorge, told Phyllis, told Jocelyn, even Chuck. 3 times I've had these folks in my office beg, borrow, pleaded to take advantage of the CPI. Never, ever did it. I can't explain, Commissioner, why these folks never did it. I don't know if the city is a profit loss for them. I can't explain why. But the fact is, their service went downhill. They told me that they can't find employees. That's the reason that they dropped the service at the Hale Center, the reason that they dropped the service at the old fire station at Echo Drive. We currently have a separate contractor providing service at those 2 facilities. That's the reason I told them that they could not bid on this contract for failure to meet the current contract obligation. American Janitorial did not, fulfill all of their contract obligations. They missed buildings, they missed trash pickup. But out of all the contractors that we've had since we outsourced this, I could honestly say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, they probably were in the range of 7.5 to 8. So, next would have been USSI. In my career, even when we had it in-house, did we ever exceed or get to a 10? No. Did we ever have complaints with in-house? Yes. Was it perfect? No. Do I prefer to have it in-house? Absolutely. It gives us ownership. The employees took ownership. The building users appreciated having city employees. I prefer it. But in this market today, trying to find staff, and it's not just the custodial staff. I'm having that trouble today with stormwater employees, street employees. Yeah. I got another resignation this morning in stormwater. And this is a $19 position. I just lost an apprenticeship that came from the academy a week ago. So it's just that type of market. It's just right now, even with the $15, if the commission, I think, gave direction to Jennifer, paid the $15 an hour, I think we still would struggle today to find people. So thus is my recommendation that we do the contract for 2 years. I think, I don't know what the market's going to look like. I don't know what the economy is going to look like in '24. But out of the contractors that bid it, unfortunately, we're stuck with the top 2. Do I think that's a good bid? And I think this group is going to do good. Their references were good. I trust these folks that PSTA was one of the reference checks. They had good things to say about them. I see no good reason for PSTA to give us a crummy reference. City of Ormond Beach. I personally, after Tanya did the reference check, I dug a little bit deeper with the folks that I know at Ormond Beach. Yeah. They spoke well of this group, and they were all consistent comments. It wasn't like they were set up, to say good things. And this is a group that diversified since we used them last. They do multiple business ventures than they did before they left us. So it's been a successful company.
So the leadership is in the organization is different than it was before.
Absolutely.
And Commissioner Franey, your question was how is it that we're going to ensure that the current or the proposed company adheres to the contract, and we have Ismail, who's sitting here with us today. He actually was not working for the city at the time, and he administers this contract solely. That's his position, to follow the company around to ensure that they are adhering to all the specifications of this contract. So I'm confident that those, as it was scoped, and I know Jocelyn and Phyllis were involved in developing the scope of services for this contract. I did reach out to Phyllis directly to talk to her about this contract, and she feels as long as the company adheres to the contract, then the level of service will be adequate for the library. She is concerned. She does want to, with any company, obviously, to ensure that our facilities are kept clean. And it's been a long-standing concern of hers, so I think that this particular company is one that if they adhere to the contract, that will be able to provide that level of service.
What is our ability to cancel the contract?
It's a 30-day with or without cause.
Okay, and let me ask, this is a legal question I'll ask Nikki, because we've all been through all this before in contracts where, and of course it says without cause. So I'm assuming that takes any of the normal things off of us. Like, a lot of times you want to let somebody go. Well, if you put them in default, it goes on and on and on and on and on, and you can never get rid of somebody who's not performing. Nikki, do you feel comfortable this contract gives us a lot of power in that regard to step away if we have to?
Without cause means you just need to give 30 days notice.
I can't hear you.
Without cause means you just would be subject to the 30-day notice period. You don't have to give a reason.
Okay.
With or without cause. I think it's actually termed termination for convenience, and in your contract, the first $10 of consideration goes to support that. So I am comfortable that the city would have a 30-day out.
Okay, and thank you, Nikki. And the other, Keith, what I'm hearing from you, and I just want a short answer here, is that be it not for the current labor market, you potentially would be recommending the hybrid method right now.
I most certainly would.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of comments, but I don't know if you want me to make them now or wait till after questions, Mayor.
Yeah, why don't we do the comments at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, questions?
I mean,
Commissioner, any questions?
I don't.
Commissioner Twanga, any
I've
questions?
had all my questions answered by the city manager, and I thought a very thorough presentation to me when I asked the questions, and I feel very comfortable with the contract.
Okay. Anybody can answer this question, really, literally. Do you feel, I mean, all things being equal and you're comfortable with this company, let's just assume all of those things. Do you feel that the scope that we put in the RFP will make the difference for the service that we will get? Do you feel it's a much more expanded
Yes.
requirement and expectation list?
Well, between the scope and Ismail being there for city staff to respond to him, and for him to go out and go after the custodial contractor to make sure these jobs are done and everything is done the way it's supposed to be per the contract, yes, I feel confident with that.
So because in previous RFPs, and I didn't go back and compare or any of that, but I'm just saying we're asking for additional things to be done that maybe we didn't ask for before. Do we feel that that's happening? I mean, because how much you worked with all the different departments and.
Well, I think from that standpoint, and as we've gone along since 2008, we've kind of learned our lesson with each one of the contracts that we do, and how the contractor responds to those contracts. So each new one, we write it better and better. So in this one, we've learned a lot from our current contractor. And so those shortfalls are addressed then in there.
I'm guessing you feel okay with that?
I do.
Okay, and then there's just one other question, going back to the hybrid thing that you sent us. I just wanted to be clear, because you said you updated the contractor portion of it. So, I mean, the way I'm reading this document, custodial contract services says 240,000, basically, 239 and change. So that was the new number based on this 684,000
Correct.
bid.
613.
Yes.
Sorry.
613.
613. Okay. Is this contractor going to also handle the hail, you mentioned a couple centers that aren't, that's all built in,
Yes.
where it wasn't in the last contract?
It was, is that the contractor?
Just
You
didn't,
need-
couldn't do it, okay.
Yeah.
All right, those are all my questions. Thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to come forward and speak to this item? Okay, we'll come back. Can I have a motion to approve this bid?
So moved.
Commissioner Twanga,
Second.
Vice Mayor Gao. Okay, any final comments, Commissioner Twanga?
No, I think it was as thorough as what I would have expected. I happen to have a little bit of experience in this area, but nevertheless, I thought it was well done, and I appreciate the issues about employees going off into the future, and that is a concern. So I think this is not a stopgap, but this is a continuation of what we've been doing, and I feel comfortable with it, and I feel comfortable that staff's got their fingers on it, based on the communication that was given to me in the staffing.
Thank you, Commissioner, or Vice Mayor?
No real comments. We had the right people involved in the process. It's been thoroughly examined. If they support it, then I support it.
Commissioner Kynes?
Well, thank you, Commissioner Franny, because, we've been through it where it was all staff-driven. I mean, it was all done in-house. And, it's been a difficult issue, so I think it's important that we continue to look at it. But I think the employee thing is what's really, I think we're seeing that across the board economically. And I think that is a very important component that we're going to have to really keep our hand on for the entire city. For, you're seeing it in the restaurants. They're closing 2-3 days a week. In our community. So that's a very big issue. And I don't really know how to get a handle on it, Jennifer, but maybe, we should sort of speak to that at some time, because it's sort of like something that's compressing that we need to at least understand.
Thank you. Commissioner Franny?
Yeah, yeah, and excuse my comments because, of course, this is a passionate thing for me. Custodial is not sexy. It's been used over probably the last decade as a way for cities and counties to save money, but they're not really saving money. They're kidding themselves, in my opinion. We've been doing this for a decade. It's been a failure for a decade. I do think we've gotten better, and I thank the staff. I think they've worked really hard to detail and to really create a high expectation of what we want. So I think if we're going to succeed, the way that this bid has been set up gives us the best hope of succeeding. And I think that's good. And I think Commissioner Kynes is certainly correct. In this labor market, this is probably the better risk right now than to try to, restart something on our own as a hybrid. Obviously the principle of custodial, I don't have to tell all you, but, it becomes longer term problems. We don't take care of our buildings. And so I think I appreciate the commission really delving into this. I think we're looking at obviously a bid that's twice the cost, because guess what? We weren't getting what we were, for half the cost, we were getting crap. Hopefully for twice the cost, because we're detailing it and setting our expectations clear, we'll get it. I know what our frontline staff, what the frontline staff feels, we all do, that are in those main public centers. And they have not gotten what they need. And in the end, it's to the detriment of the taxpayers' facilities that we're in charge of. So, but again, I do want to commend staff for doing a great job on this. We've got City Hall coming up. I think that elevates this even more. We put a lot of money in the new city hall. Again, I don't want crap custodial because again, it takes its wear and tear. You wouldn't want to have your own house that way, and I don't think we should have the people's house that way. So I commend staff on what they've done. I really want us to look at this and see how it's going at the 6-month point. Hopefully the rest of the commission will be on board with that. Maybe a 6-month evaluation. I would like staff to fully vet, including with Jorge and with Paul and Keith, to make sure that we've got a good handle on the hybrid, so that if we have to pull a trigger, we're ready to pull the trigger. And obviously we'll have to watch the labor market. So that's kind of what I feel. I think this is one of those things that it isn't sexy, but it's very important in terms of quality management of our citizens' assets. So if we could do those things, I think staff did a good job of putting us in the best possible position for success, and I certainly will support the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Franny. Appreciate that. I know this has been something that's, weighed on you for a number of years. The staffing was great, so appreciate all the hard work and that everybody put into it. I know Jennifer is aware of what's happening at some of the lesser paying jobs in our city, which means we have to evaluate everything. It's not just those positions. And I think pay scale's got a lot to do with it. I really do. But it's not just because we have a low pay scale. That's not the point. That's not it. It's where the world is. Many people have left their jobs, not just the service industry job, even though some of this is like a service industry job, in order to better themselves, get into a new career, do further education, and maybe even though they had a job, maybe their spouse didn't, or whatever. So this is an ongoing problem that I really do believe and I know that you're working with Teresa on some things. Again, I think we have to look at the long-term jobs that we need to fill and or create and determine where our priorities are. And I do, I've said it over and over, and nobody ever wants to put a list together, but I absolutely think that we should be putting a list together of what we think we're going to need in the future, from a strategic planning perspective, not from a financial perspective, because how we fill those positions, that's where the financial part comes in. But I absolutely believe we need a long-term list of what our needs are and what our future needs are, even if it's 5 to 10 years out. I really hate waiting from year to year to year to see which lucky department gets a person when I know that there are so many needs. That's not to address the positions that are actually open, but I think it's all part of it. The positions that are hard to fill is an area that we have to look at for answers. What is it? Is it salary? Is it the environment? Is it whatever it is? So I just really think we need that analysis.
I do too.
And I mean, I could probably think of 5 positions today that we don't have that I think we should have. And I'm not in the muck of the details. So I'm not asking for any consensus direction. I'm just putting it out there. So as you're working with Teresa, I really do believe we need that. Causeway bathrooms included on this? I forgot to ask.
Yes.
4 times a day, did you say? 5 times a day? By the way, putting another note out there, we need to do something with those bathrooms. Besides clean them. They're pretty bad. Again, thank you, everybody. I think this was, I do think it's a good step. A lot more money than it was, but we'll see. Now we'll know. We've put our best efforts into it, and we'll know whether it'll work or not. So thank you guys for your efforts. All right.
Mayor,
I see
Mayor.
Commissioner Franny.
Mayor.
Oh, yes, ma'am?
Yeah, no, actually, I think if more governments actually did such a detailed bid, so it was more apples than apples, they'd get it, because I think most governments, they just don't get it. It's too expensive to go back. They're not looking at it realistically, so I really do want to commend the staff and all the staff, including the frontline people in our facilities, of working hard to try to set the bar so that we're getting something, we're getting what we really need. So I did want to thank everybody for that.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Super job. You did great.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
You did. Okay, now we'll move on to 3C, approval of financial commitment letter to the Florida Housing Finance Corporation for a proposed affordable housing project.
Yes.
Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. Bob Ironsmith, Director of Economic Development and Housing, here today to present an opportunity for affordable housing. It's something that the Commission has directed staff to continue to look at. And we have here a developer, Tim Morgan, out of Ohio, who currently has a piece of property under contract, and went ahead and contacted me and said, gee, can we look to see how we can make something work? So we have looked at this before with Tim on another project on 580. It's a highly competitive process to go for what's called low-income housing tax credits. And what we're looking to present today, and I'm going to bring Tim up to give a little bit more information, is a financial commitment from the city. It is a commitment of $650,000 toward the project. We're looking at 71 multifamily, family-oriented apartments. This would be the city's commitment. It is not due today. It would be due late next year if we get approval for it. And Tim is here to kind of talk a little bit through the process. But this would be on Union Street. There's a vacant piece of property there that Tim contacted us on, and we've been working with him to see how we can make this work. It's a 3-story type product. It's something I think that would be very good for the city, and certainly we've heard in our travels and city manager course with employees and just in general, Jennifer has heard, gee, affordable housing is a key item. How can we help make something work? We've put this together very, very quickly, frankly. This is something that we got kind of notice from Tim about 30 days ago, and we quickly tried to get everyone together to see how we can go forward with that. In your package is a couple of site plans. So let me go ahead and introduce Tim to come up so he can explain the process to you. Again, highly competitive. There's only one affordable housing project that's picked within the Pinellas County, and we think we got a good chance on this one. So Tim, if you go, please. Sure.
Welcome, Tim. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the Commission, good morning. My name is Tim Morgan. I'm the president of Jonesboro Investments Corp., and I'm here this morning to speak with you about an affordable housing proposal for, as Bob mentioned, 71 units of family housing on Union Street. This particular proposal would be an application to the Florida Housing Finance Corp. That would be due at the end of this month. That process, as Bob alluded to, is very competitive. There are more applications, not only throughout Pinellas County, but throughout the state, than the state can actually award housing tax credits to. One of the differentiators in this process is the state offers the ability for a municipality to provide what they call a local government contribution. And it is a steep dollar figure. It is not nominal in any regard, but it is an opportunity for various municipalities to show the state that a particular project is very important to them. And in that regard, they are committing, in this case, $650,000 is the request before you this morning. As Bob also mentioned, that dollar figure is not due and payable until after the project is completed and a certificate of occupancy is issued by the city. So I am here this morning to answer any questions that you may have, be it about the project or more specifically the dollar contribution that has been requested this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Yep.
Where'd you go?
Go ahead.
I asked Jennifer this, but I think it's good to put it on the record. Many years ago, there was another development that wanted to go in around that property, and they had methane issues. So
Yeah.
she said that it is not on the parcel you're looking at, and that there are mitigation efforts. I just want to put that out there
Yeah,
and put it on the record.
If I may, Tim, yeah, certainly, I'm working closely with Jennifer, of course, but, yeah, there is from the McAlpine Apartments, there is a piece of property back there that's currently used as a recreation-type, soccer-type field that has venting there for methane. But this is not on that property, so this is just a little bit south of that. This property does have some unique characteristics. There is a little wetland area there too, and certainly, we need to make sure we have a decent buffer from that landfill too. So, and Tim is very aware of all of that. He is looking to continue his due diligence on it too. He has it under contract, but he also has a period of time to complete that.
So is there a methane mitigation process for that nearby
Yeah,
parcel?
The McAlpine Apartments is on that. It wouldn't
Okay.
wouldn't
No,
encompass
that's-
this piece.
I
though.
mean,
Yeah.
I totally agree that it's going to be harder and harder to find land, particularly, for affordable housing. I definitely think, I personally feel that we should go forward with this, but I just want to I'm always going to put it on the record that there may have things that we will continue to look at.
Yeah, just from a safety perspective, remember, there is recreation going on there, is playing, all that is fine with DEP. I don't know, Paul, if you got anything additional to add than I'm adding, since you're a little bit more.
If you guys are gonna talk about it, can you just, I didn't know there was methane, so I'm glad to hear that.
Years ago.
But, and that's not on this property, it's on a different property,
Right.
so we're not trying to,
No.
and you say ventilation, where is the methane coming from?
There's a monitoring station out there, and they go out there periodically to look at what's encompassed out there. But it's been out there for years with McAlpine. Do you have any more to add, Paul?
I mean, what caused it, what's,
The former landfill.
There was a landfill that was out there on the site years ago that's been capped.
Paul, can you come up?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, again, I wasn't aware of that either. That's a fun fact that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Been there forever.
Yeah, apparently, and I don't necessarily remember as a kid, but yes, that was where the city dump was. And if you drive by there now, it's all kind of just green land, but you'll notice little, I would say 2-inch PVC pipes sticking up from the ground that allows that methane that's being produced underneath the ground to
From
vent.
the previous dumping.
Correct. Right.
Gotcha,
But it's not on this site.
right. I mean, and is that why the soccer field is there, that nobody built on it?
Correct. That would be my assumption. I mean, they needed some green space out there as well, so they left that space untouched, and once again, it's monitoring and everything else, so.
And who
it's-
monitors it?
There's likely an agreement between the current owner and the state regulatory agency.
I would say that's correct. I'm not 100% familiar, but the
And we
DEP
should
is
just
going to be
probably
involved.
have that well, you don't need, I'm just saying we should as we're working on this, we should just probably have all that information, understand what the deal is.
Just so you get comfortable, there's one right here next to us too, the gas station, or here.
No, I understand. I just,
This is not uncommon.
I mean, I would just like more information about it. It's just
Sure, we can provide that.
not a big deal.
Certainly a concern that we share as well as a potential development.
Right, yeah, so I just think we should have all that information. That's good. Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Anything else? Question?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Torga, any questions?
Yes, I do. Very general, and if you would just answer them in very general, it'd be wonderful. So my brother has done some projects like this in another state, and of course, he didn't have the opportunity to get $650,000 to do that, which is unique. So I wanted to point that out because there's a question in there. So first of all, the project that we're working on, obviously, we have a need, and there's a need throughout the county for affordable housing, and we've been working on a project like that. So something like this is of great interest. The state, the federal government and the state work together of attempting to find out how they're going to help with something like this, to make something like this happen. How do they do that? And so what you do is you do a special financing on this. Who would be involved? Who does that? Who puts that money in? What kind of us put money into this project and why? You can do that real simple. And then second of all, the $650,000, how is that number chosen? and why? And is that, I assume then, showing the support that this city wishes to make, perhaps to some dollar value of what this project might be? I don't know, but if you would just comment about that.
Sure.
And I've discussed some of this with the city manager. Last thing is that as I look at something like this, I see 71 units, and of course, we'd all, would be hopeful to see 2,000 units, but we're not going to see that. So we're doing the best we can do. But just out of curiosity, and is it because of a ruling or a law or a desirability by a higher level of government that we don't use just single bedroom, or what did you reminded me of the word yesterday? Studios, instead of just studios. In other words, just trying to increase that number of at least of a living facility that's affordable. Would you mind just commenting on all
Let's go
three?
to one question at a time, because I've forgotten what the first question
Well,
is
that's okay.
already.
He'll answer the three
them
questions.
in
He's got them.
reverse order. So
Yeah, he's got them.
the answer to your third question is we are limited to 71 units on this site due to zoning. And the actual makeup with this project is proposed for 1 and 2 bedrooms. Studios, although probably more efficient from a construction standpoint, are not necessarily more popular with renters. If this were a student housing project, I would agree that studios might be an opportune choice from a demand and popularity standpoint. From a family or professional worker, I would agree that 1s or 2s are a better idea.
No, I understand. So that's demand of the user, not the requirement of us attempting to create more units. It would be just.
True, those are distinct
Thank you.
priorities.
Thank you.
The second one is your question about the $650,000. The state threshold requirement for Pinellas County is actually $610,000. So that is the minimum requirement that Florida Housing Finance Corp. Will use in determining whether the city has met the required threshold. And what this really boils down to is that someone that can work hand in hand with the city and evidence to the state that they've received this contribution gets additional points in their application. And at the end of the day, it really is that simple. High score beats low score. And back to your first question, who puts in the money? And trying to anticipate the question, what makes this feasible? We're putting in $600 and some thousand potentially. Where does the rest of the money come for an $18 million project? If we move forward and if this property is selected for tax credits, we take those tax credits and we sell them to an investor. And it is typically large banks, insurance companies that use these tax credits to cover their federal tax liability. So on an $18 million project, and giving you a very general answer as requested, we could take these tax credits and sell them for approximately $15 to $16 million. But the end user gets $18 million worth of benefit over a 10-year period. So on an $18 million project, if we've got $15 million in equity from selling these tax credits, we have a very small gap to fill from a loan standpoint. And that's the key to make these things work, is that you cannot carry a large debt load because your rents are capped to make them affordable. So there's a lot more that I could answer, but hopefully that's a general response as asked for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Commissioner Torgo?
No, thank you.
Vice Mayor, questions?
Thank you, Mayor. I am, as we all are, a huge proponent of affordable housing, and it's almost crisis mode in the county. I'm looking at this. One, I want to make sure that in the wetlands portion, that's not being considered as part of this project.
That is correct.
Okay. And then I guess back to the.
Excuse me, it's part of the project, but it's not a density type situation since it's jurisdictional wetland type.
Right, okay, so there'll be no
building in it.
There's no building on it,
That's
okay.
correct. Okay.
Okay. Will they have access to that water?
How would you define access? The ability to actually walk over there to it as an amenity, or the ability to
Anything
get in
from
there?
looking at it from a back window to swimming in it.
Well, I think they'd certainly have a sight line through a back window, but if,
Natural preserve, yeah.
right, but it'd remain in its current state. Swimming would not be encouraged. And were this project to move forward, we would come through the site plan approval process, and the city may very well have some instructions about how to deal with that wetland.
And as I look at the, back to the methane concerns, and I'm wondering why, and you all can't answer this, but I'm wondering about why McAlpine didn't purchase that property and build on it, or why that property is still available in one of the most densely populated county in the state. And so it comes back to that methane concern for me and environmental justice, and how easy we are to make concessions for the lower income portion of society. And yes, sir.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, if I may. Actually, the developer had gone to DRC recently, Development Review Committee, with 12 single-family lots. So he was moving ahead with development. He was going to go with larger lots, 12 of them, and that's when Tim got a hold of him and said, gee, would you be willing to at least try to go forward with this process for affordable? So this was already in the works for single-family lots. So we kind of put the brakes on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did McAlpine ever give that lot consideration?
No, I don't think, I think they had their unit count. I mean, McAlpine's been there for a long time.
Right.
So, and this developer, I think actually might have been part of that overall process, and they broke this piece off, and it just has sat there. They've looked at a townhome type development that didn't come to fruition, and then the most recent one, it's been the single-family lots. And as I said, they already had started the process with the city, and we were able to put the brakes on it and say, hey, what if? Actually, Tim, by putting a contract on the property.
Okay. Are there any studies because of the landfill that's associated with this? Any type of studies, any type of testing that needs to occur?
I'm not aware. We could dig deeper. Obviously, McAlpine's there today. So obviously, if it was a problem, the apartments couldn't be that close either. There's also some villas in there, too.
There's a whole lot of digging at McAlpine, too. Right? Didn't they have to haul?
I'm not sure of that. I know there's some villas there too, so obviously we have to get a comfort level then, with that DEP situation there.
Okay. And that's where my concerns are, obviously, is the environmental impact to it. So, okay, that's all that I have right now.
Commissioner Franny.
Yeah, a couple things. Bob, this is immediately west of Lake Tiffany on Union. I'm thinking of the right parcel, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's on Union Street, so yes, the south side would be Clearwater, so yeah, you got it, Lake Tiffany.
Seems like a great parcel. I guess, Tim, one question for you would be, when we talk about affordable apartments, like what's that look like? I mean, how much would that be? How is it calculated? What's the standard on that?
Florida Housing has a very strict formula. They require that 10% of the units, so in this case, let's call it 7 for public school math, they would go ahead and say those have to be truly affordable at a very low level, in this case, 33 to 35%. So you'd be looking at rents in the $400 to $500 range. The other 90% of the units would be at 60% of AMI, which would likely be in the $850 to $900 range.
Right. Good. Thank you. My other question is for staff. I think this is a great opportunity, and so I definitely think we should go for it. However, I would like us to only be obligating rescue funds and/or penny funds, not general fund money. So just kind of a comment on that from staff. I don't think we have the general fund dollars, and if we don't have to turn to them, I don't think we should even be talking about general fund.
Certainly, Commissioner. So I have spoken with just recently the city manager and the finance director, and there is penny money that is available. That's the key thing that we have to show with this application. So we certainly can adjust it and remove the general fund aspect and keep in the penny and the American Rescue. But the penny is key.
And penny can be used. We've already deciphered that. Penny is clearly eligible money.
Yes.
That's correct, and it just needs to be available on that August 31st date. And actually, Tim and Les and Jennifer, we got together just recently, and that can be made available, so. We can
Okay,
make,
I mean,
we can change the, I'm sorry, Commissioner, we can change that letter of commitment to remove the general fund aspect to it and just
That
go with
would
Penny
be
and American
great. Other
Rescue.
than that, I'm very supportive of this, but that would be great.
So to be clear, we need to show that the penny fund is available as of August 31st of this year, and it is available in penny.
Correct.
Yes, and where that comes
Right.
from is it goes back to my earlier comment about the competitive nature of this process. It is likely that not just this potential application, but others, are often challenged by other developers in an effort to knock them out. And what would likely happen specific to this grant form is they would look at the nature of the funds being committed. And they would ask, are those funds truly available as of the date of application, which is August 31st? So in the event of the American Rescue Fund, although it may be coming down the pike and an available source of money, if it were not available as of August 31st, it would lead to an issue.
2022.
No, 2020.
2021.
We have to show that it's
Okay,
available.
we have to show it this year, but that we have it, but we don't actually pay it till
Right.
2023. Is
That's
that
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm just trying to get that. That was a good point.
So we can do a budget adjustment or
Right.
whatever we're going to do.
It's very legal contentious. This is a
Gotcha.
very competitive process.
But either way, we're saying that we can show that the penny funds are available. That's not an issue.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay, so good. Yeah, no, I think this is a good project. I mean, 71 units affordable like that would be a great step.
Yeah, just so you know, when Tim mentioned 60% of the median for the bulk of it, that's where the county is too. I mean, that's a very strong affordability aspect on the rental side, so.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just a couple of things. Is this the only state funding that's available, Bob?
I'm sorry, Mayor,
Is
excuse me.
this the only state funding that's available?
Yes, that's pretty much it, through the low-income housing tax credit, yeah.
Is this coming out of the Sadowski Fund, or?
Oh, I don't know, Tim, do you know exactly where their funding is?
There are other state affordable housing funds. There's the housing tax credit. There are the Sadowski funds that you mentioned, which are typically grant and subsidized funds. There's even a sale program that are used and coupled with mortgage revenue bonds. But the ones that work best is the 9% housing tax credit. And that's why it's so competitive.
And you can't do both? You can't go for
No.
the Sadowski funds too?
Sadowski funds are given to the municipality, not to private developers. So to the extent that a municipality, whether it's a city or county, gets an allocation, they can then choose to use that for affordable housing, but it's not awarded to private developers.
So are we
direct.
able to apply for those things from the state?
I'd have to defer whether they go to the county, I don't know.
I think that we would need to look at that. I believe, because we're
believe
not an
it goes to
entitlement
the
city, that
county.
we need to go through the county for the Sadowski.
I think we're part of the county, yeah.
So the next step, my next question is, are we going to apply for county affordable housing money?
We talked to the county, on this program, no, because the county's putting in our own program, and it's competition. So the county's not going to help us with this initiative under
I mean-
low-income housing. Under the Sadowski Act, we certainly can ask them and see if
Well,
there's anything
okay,
available.
I've moved past, but why won't they help us?
Because they're competing on their own project. They have their own, and there's only one from the county that
No,
gets
I'm-
selected with the state.
I'm talking, okay, so the
Yeah.
county has put aside,
Yes.
I'm rough numbering, $250 million for both acquisition of land for economic development as well as affordable housing projects.
Yes,
And they are working with communities and asking for applications.
we-
That's what I'm asking about.
I'm very familiar with it, because, for a
Right.
lot of reasons.
Right.
They will not participate with us. We've asked them. There's the $80 million, as you mentioned, on the
Right.
affordable on that. This one, all they could maybe help to do is some type of land purchase, but they haven't really committed to that because they're looking at their own type of initiative too. So we haven't been able, we can go ahead and address
Okay,
it
I'm
again.
still not clear as to why they won't, why we don't meet their criteria. So I'd like more information on that then. I won't get into the
Yeah,
debate.
certainly.
I know,
They're looking at larger projects too, just.
no, I understand that. We were just, okay, so we were just at a workshop, and I spoke to you about this yesterday. We were just at a workshop, and unfortunately, I came in a little bit late. I know you were late too because of PSTA, but with Forward Pinellas and our legislators, and we were talking about transportation, transit, land use, and affordable housing. And unfortunately, the moderator didn't call on me, but I did, after the meeting, speak with the head of Forward Pinellas about this. And this is the frustrating thing. So the requirements from the state, as well as the county, to my understanding, you know, Forward Pinellas has a plan that you have these main corridors that they're working on: land use, affordable housing, and transit. And there's only 5 cities in our county, of 24 cities, that are entitlement cities that have the opportunity to do their own stuff on a regular basis. And then you have these 19 other cities in our county that are not entitlement cities that don't have a lot of money. Think about the how many cities we have that have like 4,000 residents, but don't have a lot of money, like the entitlement cities, and it's the chicken or the egg. Maybe don't have great transit, and they don't have great transit because we can't pay for our transportation, our transit thing that the state won't help. So it's a vicious cycle. We just got unapproved or not approved a couple years ago for this because it wasn't close enough to a bus stop and the service wasn't frequent enough. Really? So we're in a vicious cycle, and you know, I'm really thinking about kind of crafting a letter about this and that it has to be addressed. And I think the best avenue of fighting this issue is by going to the county. You know, trying to move a wheel in the state is, I'm not saying we shouldn't send them a letter too, but is virtually impossible. So I think there is a bigger fight to be had at the county level on this issue, given that we have 24 cities. And if you really want to help with affordable housing and you got a perfect project, who cares if it's not 150 units? We can work with PSTA and Forward Pinellas to make sure the bus stop's closer and to make sure they can, you know, look at the service and whatever. I mean, I think we can overcome some of this is what I'm trying to say. So I really want us to work hard on this. If I craft the letter, I'll certainly run it by all of you first. But I think there is money to be had, at least with us applying.
Mayor?
Mayor? Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just wanted to tag on your comment. I couldn't agree more with what you said. I mean, a 71-unit affordable housing project is so not insignificant. We never get opportunities like that. And by holding off a bunch of penny money at the county level, I think, you know, I certainly respect, they've done a lot of good things with us at the county.
Right.
So I respect them greatly. I don't even begin to understand some of their level of prioritization. But again, I think that you don't want to see a 71-unit thing just be looked at as way secondary when it's very significant for our area. So I certainly would be in favor of you trying to craft something that made sense so that we could have a better understanding of how they're looking at that and kind of, you know, using that money and including us in some of that allocation.
Thank you, Commissioner. You were talking about the, can you just tell me what the cost to build per unit is? Do you know that? In general, it's not a perfect math, I understand. So what are you thinking?
This project at 71 units and at 3 stories would probably, on the hard cost side, be pushing $140,000 a unit.
Okay. And so, okay, 140. And then you,
I'll caveat that by saying what happens with lumber in the near future.
yeah, I know, my husband's in construction, he's having the same thing. And when you say 140, is that after all the money you get in from grants or whatever? Or is
Well,
that
that's
that's
just the
before any
answer.
of that?
That's the answer to the question is what
Gotcha,
is it
the
on
straight
the hard
question.
cost alone?
Gotcha. After all of it, okay. And you talked about capping of the rental prices. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure,
Is that
Florida
a
housing.
state cap?
It's throughout the nation, but yes, it's in the state of Florida. Florida Housing has a vested interest, if they're going to award these credits, to make sure these units remain affordable. So how do they do that? They make the developer or owner file a covenant that will run with the land that will guarantee it remains affordable for 50 years. And so what they do to enforce that is they use the adjusted median income figure, which goes up and down nominally year to year, to make sure that those rents stay affordable and that 3 years into the process, a developer doesn't flip the project to market rate and completely erase what it is we're discussing.
Gotcha. Very good. And then you talked about the 10% versus the 90%. Now, that might be the standard. What is the tentative, and I know it could change between now and then, what's the tentative plan for us for this project? Are you talking 10 and 90, or are you talking about some other different percentage?
Yes, on the 10 and 90.
You're at 10 and 90.
It's mandated with the state with that.
That it has to be 10 and 90, so it
Well, you gotta do at least
couldn't,
10.
it couldn't be 20 and 80?
It could, but the minimum
It can't
threshold
be
is 10.
less
Yes.
than 10, is what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yes.
So today, the plan is the 10 and 90?
Yes.
Okay. Two other questions. I did look at the site plan. Again, I know that's a proposal.
Correct.
I just want to throw something out there. On the west side of the property, there's a big amount of trees. I'm just looking at the aerial. I haven't gone by to even see the quality of the trees. But when I look at the proposed site plans, you've got green space on the east side of the property. So I'm just going to suggest that if you're going to allow green space, allow it where the trees are.
Yeah,
Just I'm saying, rather than,
sure, and I think, Tim, I'm going to let
you know,
Tim
just
speak.
when you're looking at it.
I think
Again,
he
I'm
did
not,
did a buffer of that to the other, the soccer field recreation side. So.
yeah, and I'm not worried about kids playing on a soccer field. I would be more worried about the people living to the west and keeping the trees that are already there.
Yeah, he'll certainly have to work with the arborist and
Yeah,
be subject to all of
y'all
that. So.
figure that out, but I'm just saying, if you're going to apply green space, you do have a soccer field right behind you, by the way. But if you're going to find green space, why don't we just keep the trees that exist and make that a nice little space?
We certainly have no motivation to move or tear down any trees we don't
Okay,
need.
so I just throw that out there as a consideration when you're
Sure.
looking at the project itself. And then Jennifer, at one time, I think I already know the answer. At one time, we had the money from the sale that house we just did was $400 and some thousand. Where is that money now? In the general
It's
fund
in
reserve?
the general fund reserve.
Okay. And that's not going to get applied to affordable housing, as we kind of talked about? I mean, we talked about several things, but initially, it was supposed to be applied to affordable housing.
We could delineate it or identify it for affordable housing, but that would decrease the general fund reserve. So we can certainly do that. When the project on 580 fell through, we rolled it back into the general fund, so.
Oh, that's right, I remember that. I remember that.
Right.
Okay. Well, obviously, we have American Rescue Act money, even though we're going to put it in penny. We have other options. I just
We
don't want
do.
to lose sight of it. Okay. All right, those are all of my questions. Is there anybody from the audience that wishes to come forward? Okay, is there a motion to approve the agreement
So
or the
moved.
letter?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Twanga and Commissioner Franny, I think is who I heard.
That is exclusive of the way it's presented today, and it just includes the,
We'll adjust that, we'll adjust that commitment letter to take the general fund out of there and utilize the penny and the American Rescue. So we'll make that change.
Okay. Any other comments, Commissioner Franny?
No, I mean, I think getting rid of the general fund, but we have the money and the penny is great. I do think I didn't expect to have this kind of an opportunity pop up with affordable housing. And so I'm glad to see it.
I have one little thing.
Go ahead.
Does anybody know how the Sadowski Trust was actually funded this year?
They moved a bunch of money out of it.
Yeah, they've been.
Never fully
excuse-
funded.
Yeah,
They
they've been
moved a
doing,
bunch of money out of it. That's what we heard.
they've been
last
doing
week.
it every year for quite some time. Yes, of course, that's the dock stamp money that comes in and they take it and reallocate mayor, as you mentioned.
I think they put it towards environmental issues, though, right?
did.
They did.
Yeah, and that was the, I mean,
But
Yeah.
there's a handshake deal that won't do that again for another
Yeah.
4 to 5 years.
Senator Brandis was talking a lot about that, right?
Yeah.
We were hoping too, based on the dire need really for affordable housing, that maybe 2 would be taken from the county, but the state didn't go in that direction, Tim, right?
Correct.
So that's unfortunate. But So that's why it's so highly competitive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any final comments?
No.
Okay, all right, we'll go ahead with our vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Oh, you know, one other thing I think people should know is that this is, when we originally looked at this property, it was for seniors. It is now for families,
Correct.
and that's exciting.
That is.
That is really, really exciting for our community, because when we were, our affordable housing study said, you know, we're in need of seniors. And it was funny, because even though we said that, we had a lot of feedback from the community, so what about the rest of us? So, you know, go ahead.
If I may, Mayor, first of all, I think that we need to amend the business plan to incorporate this as a business plan initiative for our fiscal year 2022. We need to encumber the penny funds to make it a strong application, so you'll see that line item in our penny fund. And also, I really would like to thank Bob and Tim for all the work that they did. We only had about 30 days to put this together. It's an opportunity for a bricks and mortar affordable housing project within the city of Dunedin. And I'm very grateful to both of you for all the work that you did. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may just interject, remember, the developer was going for the single family, so we put the brakes on. So this was going to happen in some shape or form, housing there regardless. The other thing too is, Tim, if you would, the date that we would hear if was awarded, remember this is competitive, so what's the?
We would apply August 31st. We'd likely hear, probably by sometime in October, they'll do the rankings, and that we'll know what's going on.
Who does the rankings?
State.
Yeah, but I mean, is there a department or a committee, a board? I don't know, I'm just asking.
No, it's just Florida Housing Finance Corp. will rank the projects by score.
Yeah.
And is there any political networking that you need us to do?
As much as I'd like to answer in the affirmative, I would actually caution, and the state makes very clear, don't do it or we'll throw you out.
Okay, well then,
No, we
Yeah.
won't.
I'd love to say yes, but I
we'll work on,
cannot.
we'll spend
Yeah.
our time working on the county.
I want to mention too, we have talked to the county a little bit. We've also talked to Pinellas County Housing Finance Authority, which is Catherine Driver. And she's met with Tim. We've had some calls there, and they're certainly willing to look and help some with the financing aspect. So I just want to throw that out there too, as far as participation, so.
And who would oversee this? Would our housing authority at some point then oversee it, or? Like, how does that work?
From an ongoing operation standpoint, no, we would hire our own management company. The housing authority would not have an actual role in this development unless the city during the approval process said, we'd like you to do X, Y, and Z. But the short answer would be no.
Well, we'd certainly probably want to know what any benefits of that would be, but,
And we can work that out as we go
Yeah.
through the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
okay. All right then, thank you, gentlemen.
Members of the commission, thank you for your consideration. Good
All right,
morning.
Thank you. All right, and then we have the proposed agenda for August 31st. Anybody have any changes there? I didn't see anything myself that required any discussion. That's going to be, I would say it's probably going to be a lengthy meeting. It is. Because that's when we have our golf club sustainability study
Oh, my gosh.
for the workshop item. Although, there's only one action item, and that's law enforcement, but every time we talk about law enforcement, we get into a long conversation, even if we don't need to. It's one of those things. There just seems to be a lot of consent agenda. We'll just work really hard to get our questions answered prior to coming. Any other things? Everybody okay?
And when is the law, okay, I see it,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
under the action
that's
item.
going to be a very interesting conversation. That could be long.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be terribly long, though. Okay, we're good. All right, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second, whatever.
Okay, Commissioner Kynes and Vice Mayor Gao. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, so we're going to take a few minutes break
Yay.
before we come back to our Skinner Boulevard item. Thank you. Welcome back. We'll call our meeting to order. Thank you for joining us again. We will move on to our workshop items, which is the Skinner Boulevard Complete Streets Project update, which also includes a traffic study that we requested. I'll turn this over to Bob.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, Bob Ironsmith, Director of Economic Development and Housing. I'm pleased today to go ahead and go over the complete streets on Skinner Boulevard. We got several items that we want to cover today. We have our consultant, Jerry Dubkowski, to do a traffic capacity analysis. If you recall, the commission directed staff to retain a consultant to look at capacity with regard to the projects that are going to be happening over the next several years, with Skinner Boulevard proposed to go from 4 to 2. Jerry's going to go ahead and talk about that in detail. He went ahead and took his traffic capacity out to 2033, so you're going to see quite a bit of that. The other item, we have three. The second item, we have both Chelsea Ferraro with Ford Pinellas, the planning manager. We have Justin Hall and Jensen with DOT. He's going to talk a little bit about the schedule for the proposed improvements on Skinner Boulevard, which, as you know, has been accelerated. And the last item is going to be a kind of a graphic presentation from Jerry on the 3D modeling for Skinner Boulevard, so you can see how it's going to work and operate with the trail, the parking, the pull-off, the roundabout. So pretty good things that he's put together there. So at this point in time, let me go ahead and turn it over to Jerry to talk to you a little bit about the traffic capacity analysis that he completed for us.
Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you, Bob, and good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Exciting to be back here again. We're getting to the final concepts of what Skinner Boulevard may look like. Very excited that the Florida Department of Transportation is here today with us, and also Chelsea from Ford Pinellas. We've worked very hard over the last couple of years to have public input, and a lot of information has been gathered, updated through today. So complete streets update today. And we'd like to start off with, Bob asked us to take a look at the traffic study for what's called DEEP, the Downtown East End Project area. And as you recall, when Artisan East was coming in for its public hearings and information, one of the big issues was the traffic that would be generated from that project. And that, of course, is within the DEEP area that we're going to talk about this morning. So the study area that we wanted to take a look at for the future of projects that could be coming in the DEEP area, and we're looking at through the year 2033, because that's when the CRA essentially comes to an end. So we had a great opportunity to meet with Joey of your staff, with George, with Francis, Bob, his group, to talk about what projects do we know about that could come into the DEEP area and maybe have an impact near the Artisan East. And Mayor, if you recall, a month or so ago, you were very much concerned about the Artisan's impact at the intersection of Milwaukee and Skinner, and could the traffic be accommodated at that intersection. So we're going to talk about that this morning. I welcome all questions. It's a great day today to answer these questions. Things have moved on very well for the city with the Blue Jays project. It's awesome. Now you got City Hall, and now we're going to have Skinner Boulevard. So in meeting with your staff, ultimately there were approximately 4 or 5 projects that clearly are going to impact Skinner Boulevard. And we called the center of it all is Milwaukee at Skinner, because the Artisan will be generating a lot of traffic. But you can see there's 3 or 4 other future projects that are in the ground or are proposed to be in the ground over the next couple of years that could have impact on the future of Skinner Boulevard from a traffic perspective, from walking, from cycling. So a lot's going to happen in this area. So when I met with your staff, we thought a quarter-mile radius would be an excellent area to look at the future for traffic that may happen. We also took into consideration the new City Hall. New City Hall isn't exactly inside that area, but it's really close. So we did take a look at that type of traffic, and we also take into consideration the peak hour traffic, the seasonal traffic that happens, the Blue Jays traffic. We took into consideration all of those types of issues that could impact in this area. When we look at future trip generation means traffic going and coming from a development. For instance, if you look at the Artisan East, they're roughly going to add about 1,035 cars to the future of Skinner Boulevard or Main Street or other streets, Milwaukee, but ultimately over a 24-hour day, there's roughly about 1,000 cars will be added to the street network in Dunedin. And when we look at what's really considered the most important is the PM peak period. So you can see to the right of the screen, the future of the Highland Townhomes, the Dunedin Bed and Breakfast, the Artisan East, and also the expansion from Meese Life. The greatest hour that really the city needs to be concerned about from a traffic capacity standpoint is that PM peak period. And that's been consistent for years and years and years. And we have research data that goes back 20 years on Skinner Boulevard, and clearly 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. is when the greatest impacts on Skinner Boulevard or on Main Street or on Milwaukee. So we feel comfortable that when we look at traffic in the future, we really need to understand that 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. peak for not only what's out there today, but also in the future. Now, are there some peaks in the morning? Absolutely. Well, will there be more traffic coming to City Hall in the morning? Absolutely. Does it scatter throughout the day? Yes, it does. But overall, when you take into consideration all the developments, all the peak hour traffic, Florida Department of Transportation's traffic data, Forward Pinellas's data, 4:30 to 5:30 is the real time that we need to look at issues like that. So in going back to the discussion with the Artisan East, there was questions of what would the future of Skinner Boulevard look like when it goes down to 2 lanes, one in each direction, one eastbound, one westbound. And the graphic in front of you is at the intersection of Skinner Boulevard and Milwaukee Avenue. And then the Artisan East is on that southeast corner. You can see the parcel shows vacant property, but we know it's going to be a multi-story, multi-use type of development. And the majority of traffic going to Artisan East and to City Hall, et cetera, will be using that left turn lane that you see the 4 left turn arrows on. That is the critical left turn lane all along Skinner Boulevard that will have the most traffic turning at it. So we anticipated what the future of Artisan would look like at build-out. We took into consideration the traffic that would go into City Hall. We took into consideration the future of Meese Life. And that left turn lane that you see there is 400 feet long. That is adequate to take care of any traffic that wants to turn left versus the opposing traffic that would be going east on that single lane. And that intersection will function with that 400-foot left turn lane all the way to the year 2033 and beyond at an appropriate level of service. So we did take a look at all the future traffic, the existing traffic. We feel very comfortable that that 400-foot left turn lane will accommodate all future traffic, including the build-out of Artisan East. So there actually is a slide. So in looking at so from a capacity standpoint on the DEEP study, we are in really good shape through the year 2033 with the future enhancements that would come in on the Skinner Boulevard Complete Streets project. So I put this graphic up for those that maybe don't know what complete streets really are. And it's based on the context of the roadway and its surrounding area. That is essentially a statement that the Florida Department of Transportation and Forward Pinellas use a lot to take a look at their future roads, of whether they are built properly within our cities and towns. Ultimately, the context of this road is that it's going to be in an urban setting. It's going to have potential for future businesses, restaurants. It's going to have trail capabilities. It's going to have a lot of bicycle and a lot of walkers. So the context of this road is pretty much under what we call a context 2 in that category, which means a downtown kind of setting. And that's what we want to design for. And then a complete streets needs to be designed, operated, and maintained for all users, regardless of age or ability. And that's what we really keyed on here is every time we met with your staff or with FDOT or Forward Pinellas, the use of more expansion for a multi-trail use, cyclist use, those that have critical needs so they can use the corridor. So Skinner Boulevard is being designed absolutely to take care of all ages and abilities along that corridor.
Yeah, Jerry, if I may, I just want to add something too. We actually got this from Chelsea there in the audience. Forward Pinellas, the trail counts here in Dunedin were the highest of any area. I mean,
they are.
double St. Pete,
Yeah.
double everywhere else. I mean, it's phenomenal. And what this project initiative that Jerry's describing will really connect with that and make that, even a better enhancement. So, Jerry, just wanted to.
Hey, before we go any further on the complete street side, I just wanted to, so that we can kind of section off our conversation, open it up for any questions regarding the traffic portion of this presentation. So,
Capacity.
yeah, any questions on that or concerns or anything?
Not on the traffic portion.
I do, yes. Jerry, you talked about the 400 feet heading east.
Heading west.
I'm sorry, heading west, heading west. We have traffic coming from the east that has a turn lane there as well, to turn on, and I can't remember, it's a name of a street. It's just west of Bass.
Milwaukee then?
Milwaukee?
Milwaukee?
No, there, is it, maybe it's the extension of Milwaukee on the other side.
Okay.
I didn't see any reference to that. I'm just curious. And those people turn left in both ways, in both directions, heading east or west on
You
Skinner.
might be talking about, there is a small road that goes off to the north. It's
Yes.
illustrated on.
Yeah, there's Milwaukee
Yes.
Extension, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It's offset, the road is offset, yeah.
Very, very minor traffic. It's pretty much a right turn in, right turn out. Very little traffic turning left in there.
I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, can you tell us what the length of the turning lane is right now as a comparison to the 400 feet?
What it is right now is what we call a reverse turn lane. You can actually turn left onto Milwaukee, or you could turn left to go to the north to turn on the Milwaukee extension. Right now, it probably has about 100-foot dedicated for an actual left turn onto Milwaukee. And then it turns into a reverse turn lane where you could turn to the north or do whatever you
Yeah,
really want.
Okay.
It's about
Yeah, 'cause
100
it's
foot long.
That's like a suicide lane kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
We call them reverse turn lanes.
I just wanted, Yeah.
Very interesting. We've always called
It's a
them
little more
suicide
positive than the
lanes.
suicide.
But it's a much nicer, spin.
okay, and then I just wanted to, so I buy everything for the Skinner Boulevard piece, and I know we're not really here to talk about the other side of it, but the Main Street side, meaning the downtown Main Street side. So from Skinner to Milwaukee. And you may need to come back to us at some future time. I'm assuming you looked at that. We have coming out of the hospital parking lot, the eastern side of their parking lot, the entrance from East Life's, newer buildings or all of that. Then we will also have traffic coming off of Artisan. We've also got the new parking area that we'll have at Mies Materials. And we have golf carts crossing at Bass. Presuming that they're going to continue to cross there, they're not going to have any other options other than to go down Main Street versus Skinner. I'm concerned a little bit about all of that, plus the hospital itself. All of that traffic that the Artisan is going to now do on Main Street side. So have you looked at all of that, or is that something you'd have to really analyze in the future? Where are we with that?
Excellent question. We have looked at Main Street between Milwaukee and Bass, if you want to call that.
Yep.
And the number one priority for that is the hospital with EMS access.
Right.
The plan that we'll get to here in a little while will show that the intersection of Bass, Main, and Skinner will remain exactly the same. We don't take any lanes out of it as part of the complete streets because the EMS clearly needs to use all that geometry to get back to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
The traffic that is currently there ranges heavily between seasonal and non-seasonal, anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 cars a day, depending on what time of the year. And when we looked at what Meese Life might like to do with their driveway, changing it, making it a little closer to across from Sky Restaurant, is that we kind of looked at their future traffic of what it might add to Maine in that area, and we don't think that it's going to cause capacity problems. Meese Life is a little difficult to forecast because it's being built out in phases over probably 5 to 7 years. But that type of facility will probably have more visitor traffic than it will the people living within there, coming out, driving on Main Street, et cetera, just because it's that kind of a facility. In reference to golf carts are increasing every day at that crossing at Bass and Skinner. Golf carts are going to be a big part of Maine. There has been thoughts of a possible second way to get golf carts into downtown.
Yeah, we've talked about that, and I was going to ask those questions later as we went down the Skinner thing. But, I mean, the great thing about golf carts is it is replacing a car. So, I mean, in theory, you would think that it's not really adding to the traffic, it's just a different form of traffic.
Correct.
But I am concerned about the backup. You know, people, that's the side where Gateway has the, drop-off area. That will be the side where, in theory, as the East End becomes more vibrant, will be a lot of walking. I'm just concerned about the backup of traffic and what that does. And in addition, Meese Life, when they were talking about some of their cafe, restaurant amenities that they're thinking about, I got the impression they were opening that to the public. One of them, they talked about possibly doing that, and so that also would drive more traffic.
I actually met with Meese Life probably 3 years ago as an introduction with Bob, and we met with their planners to talk about what their future was. And one of the issues is they were at that time, this is years ago now, considering the intersection at Skinner, Bass, and Main as probably one of their main entrances to come in. And the reason they were doing that is because the site on the southeast corner of New York Avenue and Skinner wasn't the most desirable way for them to come in to their facility. Well, now that has changed in the last couple of years. It's now a whole new development, and I would say Meese Life is now looking at New York Avenue as probably one of their more important entrances for all those people coming from the east, from US 19, Belcher Road, if they come to see their loved ones. New York Avenue will probably become one of the more important entrances than it would going to the Signal at Skinner. So things have changed, but I want to share with you that I've looked at Main Street. I really believe that it won't have those backups. And then an alternative that if backups do occur, I've met with Pinellas County, who controls the traffic signal at Main and Skinner. FDOT owns the rights to the signal, but Pinellas County controls the timings, and I've met with them. And as these projects go on and as traffic changes, they can adjust the timings to make it more efficient for EMS access or not having backups on Main because too much traffic is letting through the signal. So there's opportunities to try to ease that situation, but I feel confident there's really not going to be backups on Main.
Okay, and then you feel that people coming from the east heading west on Main Street on 580 will use the New York entrance, and people then heading east coming from the west will use Main Street?
I would say your first question, yes, coming from the east going to the west, New York will probably become the more popular way because it's the easiest way to get into that facility. Because what happens is the traffic signal at Skinner and Main Bass, when it goes red for eastbound traffic, you can turn left onto New York Avenue. Very simple because there's that gap that's created.
Right.
So New York's going to become a popular way for Meese Life. People coming from the west, I would say that they will probably stay on Skinner, turn right until Milwaukee, and then turn left on Main to go into Meese Life. That would probably be their most popular way to go. Otherwise, they have to go past the traffic signal and then turn right on New York Avenue. So it's pretty much up to that person which way they want to go. But I don't think the impacts from Meese Life, at least from what I'm looking at, won't be that dramatic on Main.
Okay, and I think something just to keep in mind too in the future is that as they do develop in the future, which again is a number of years out, there may want to be some kind of entry. They, us, and whoever's were June Taylor, I don't know if they're still there, there may want to be an entryway feature there that talks about Meese Life this way, or something, just to make sure people know that.
I think they have discussed that. I think that would be a really great down-the-road idea. Keep that in your thoughts.
Entryway feature.
Because it's going to be very visible with the new Skinner, Maine, Meese Life, how they might reconfigure New York. I think that would be excellent.
Yeah. And I totally forgot to call, before I started talking, to call on Commissioner Freeney to see if she had anything with traffic. My apologies.
Nope, I think you're covering all the bases. I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So moving on with complete streets. Excellent questions on the deep end, and we looked all the way out to 2033 to the end of the CRA. Things could happen beyond a couple of years that we estimate, but the exciting part of everything that's going to happen in deep and along with Skinner is by far, as Bob said, cycle usage is on the rise, pedestrians are on the rise, golf carts are on the rise, less traffic is actually happening in this area. So for those watching remote, to kind of give you an idea where we're talking about complete streets, on the left side of the slide is essentially US alternate 19. Skinner Boulevard dead ends into US alternate 19 to the west because the Intracoastal Waterway is just off the screen there, off the aerial. And then as you're proceeding east, the graphic is oriented so north is up. Skinner Boulevard is an east-west road. As you proceed to the east, this project will dead end at Bass Boulevard, also called Main Street. And there is a traffic signal at Bass and Main, a full traffic signal, and there is a full traffic signal at US alternate 19 and Skinner Boulevard. The mayor, you shared with us your comments a couple of years ago, and if you don't mind, I'd like to read those for the folks at home or that are remote. Excellent comments, and all your commissioners supported this action. So if you don't mind, as the mayor of the city of Dunedin, the primary goal of the city of Dunedin is to provide private and public initiatives for creating economic development, improved physical characteristics, encourage investment in downtown Dunedin, improve the quality of life for residents, and establish a framework for the proper evolution of the city. And Mayor, I have to say I've used your quote quite a bit trying to get funds, and it has been very supportive with the public. So I wanted to share that with the folks at home. Additionally, you want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with what we're doing on Skinner Boulevard. And the CRA is a huge, important part of Skinner Boulevard, the area, And as we know, it goes to essentially 2033. So we want to do whatever improvements we can do. And ultimately, the 4 bullet points is that this project, Skinner Boulevard Complete Streets, is within the vision of the city. Complete Streets initiatives have been accepted by the leaders. And when I see the leaders, FDOT is supporting this. Forward Pinellas is supporting this. Yourselves are supporting this. And everyone that we've talked to that either knows about Complete Streets has said, wow, what a great location in the city of Dunedin for a Complete Streets project. This complies with Forward Pinellas and the transit goals. And also, you know, we've gotten a lot of support. The city's gotten a lot of support from FDOT and Forward Pinellas in funding, which has been excellent for the city, not only for concepts, but also $1 million for future construction. So we thank them. And then FDOT, who is here with us today, supports this project, and you'll hear from them.
Yeah, Jay, if I can just add, you know, great emphasis that Jerry's making. Remember, this Skinner Boulevard right now is 4 lanes. It's bifurcating our downtown. It's bifurcating it from the north end, and this is going to do tremendous to change that whole atmosphere and climate. And that's really one of the main reasons we want to get this thing started, is to bring in the north part of our CRA district.
And I appreciate your patience while I go through this, because I want to make sure that you understand everything we're trying to share here, so you can ask all the questions you want. This is getting really close to the final type of concepts, and we want to make sure that all the questions have been answered. So thank you for your time. So this is really important. The Florida Department of Transportation, whether you're in Tallahassee or in Miami, uses what's called level of service analysis on the state roads. But not only the state, but the county and city also follow what we call LOS, or level of service. So when the state comes in and says, well, I'm going to design I-75 from the Georgia line to Miami, and I would like it to be level of service C, they're going to say, okay, we probably need it to be 4 lanes wide, we probably need it to be urban interchanges, et cetera, et cetera. To reach what we call level of service A, free flow, that's like the brand new opening of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge on day 1. No issues, no congestion, no crashes, very little traffic. It's working at level of service A. If you were to now talk about the Skyway Bridge of where it is in 2021, it's probably at level of service D. It's got a lot of traffic on it. You can be caught in AM traffic going down to Manatee County. You can get caught in PM traffic. So these levels of service determine how well a road will work. Level of service A is you're just driving free flow all day. Level of service F is it's essentially a parking lot. It's very difficult to travel on that road because it's forced flow. So if you remember A through F, we always want to make sure that we're around a C or a D. If you go to an A, that says that you spent too much money on this road and it'll take forever for all this traffic to get to it. If you get to a level of service F, you were probably restricted to widen the road because of either right-of-way purchases or something that's holding you back from getting to a C or a D. So as roadway designers, we always try to reach for a C or a D. That way we're using money sufficiently, we're not buying right-of-way unnecessarily. So C and D is what we should always keep in the back of our heads as a good level when we design roads. What's really interesting on Skinner Boulevard, and this is kind of cut off on the top, I'm not sure why, but we have been looking at traffic since 2011 on Skinner Boulevard. And this is the average daily traffic, AADT, just east of US Alternate 19, just east of the Pinellas Trail. As you can see, it goes from around 10,700 way back in 2011 to where it's actually less in 2020, but it has been a constant variable of traffic from 10,700 to its peak of around 12,000, and then it's tapered off again. But overall, for the life of this 10 plus years, it's been a level of service C, Skinner Boulevard. And the reason it's been level of service C is because it's 4 lanes divided. It's got a lot of room to add more traffic. The way Skinner Boulevard is today, even in the year 2033, it would never get below C. That road is designed to accommodate 36,000 cars a day. That's a lot of traffic. Out there, there's only 12,000 today. That's why when you go out there in the mornings and you ride on Skinner Boulevard, you may not even see another car coming at you. There's times out there where you literally could walk across that road and there's no traffic. Now, you go out there at 4:30 in the afternoon, that's a different story by far. But overall, for 10-plus years, Skinner Boulevard has operated at a level of service C. What's interesting is when you look at 2019, you look at 2020, you got to remember COVID came into play, and it dropped the traffic down. People stayed home, less ridership on transit. People were riding bikes more, trying to get out into the open air. So it's expected the traffic volumes would drop in 2020. But over a 10-year period, it's been pretty consistent. So when we start taking a look at what the future of Skinner Boulevard could look like out to 2031, 2033, you can see the chart on the left. It's going to be a steady growth. And FDOT has confirmed this, Forward Pinellas has confirmed this, that the future of Skinner Boulevard is not a lot of volume. It's going to always be around the 12,000 range for the next 10 years. And beyond that, who knows what happens with electric vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. I think vehicle travel will be even less. But we have to use statistics, and statistics show that Skinner Boulevard is going to have consistent traffic volumes for a long, long time. When you look at east of Bass Boulevard, and you remember we're going to go from US alternate 19, you can go as far as US 19, and of course traffic will continue to build and build and build. So I thought I would just show you just east of Bass what type of traffic volumes there are. Again, back in 2011 it was around 17,000. Today it's around 16,000. And the reason it's higher here, as you well know, traffic's coming from the hospital, traffic's coming from City Hall, so everything east of the Bass intersection is going to have more traffic, and that's what's displayed in this. And it's still at level of service C, even with 17,000 cars. Let's talk a little bit about the safety of the corridor. This is 5 years, 4 to 5 years roughly of data, and you can see 79% of the crashes on Skinner Boulevard between alternate 19 and Bass were vehicle, 21 ultimate bicycles, and 6 pet. And Chelsea from Forward Pinellas was very kind to offer this information because they have daily information of everything that's going on that trail, on Skinner, et cetera. So the whole point of Skinner Boulevard to going to 2 lanes divided is we want to reduce these crashes. We want to make it more safe for the cyclists to cross over. We want it a great opportunity for the pedestrians to walk on much wider sidewalks, multi-use trail situations. That's what Skinner Boulevard is going to do. Well, the state and a lot of counties are using what's called Vision Zero for fatalities, crashes, bicyclists. If we could just reduce all of this by 10%, that would be huge. And I believe with Skinner Boulevard, we'll reduce this even more than that with vehicle crashes, because we're not going to have as much side street right and left angle crashes. The cyclist will be more safe, and the pedestrian will have a lot more opportunity to walk around the community. So where are we in terms of the project? Recently, FDOT and Forward Pinellas and the city are making commitments that we'd like to see this project get started in 2022. And it's roughly about a 16 to 18th month design period. We'd like to have public involvement after, say, 60% of the design. And then when we get into final design, that's approximately it, and we'd be looking into the year 23. And then again, it probably takes a year and a half to build the project. Some exciting things about the project, from at least my perspective, that we want to make sure we share with the designers at FDOT is we're going from a 4-lane divided road to a 2-lane divided road, which is going to allow more grass area, more tree area, more sidewalk area, less impervious areas, less heat coming off the roadway, et cetera. So there's a lot of huge benefits of going to the Skinner project. But you should be able to see this project probably completed, if all goes well, middle of 24 to the end of 24, if everything goes as planned. So let's talk about the design concept. This might be a little difficult for those remote to see, but ultimately, again, on the far left side is US alternate 19. The geometry that you see there will not change. You're going to have a westbound exclusive left turn lane just like you do today. You're going to have a westbound right turn lane to go to the north just like you do today. There'll be a grassed median with palm trees just like you see outside of the Holiday Inn Express. And then as you're heading east, there will be 2 lanes that will merge into one. So when you get to the Pinellas Trail crossing, it'll be 1 lane westbound, 1 lane eastbound, with bike lanes still, so that the cyclist can either stay on Skinner or get onto the trail if they wish. And then as you proceed east to the middle of the aerial, you'll hit your first roundabout at Douglas Avenue. And then as you proceed east, there's bike lanes all along there. There'll be parking along there. There'll be turnouts for PSTA, et cetera. Those have not been put into the design because those get worked on around the 30% design phase. PSTA will have a say-so of where their bus base should be. Bob will have a say, along with George, of where parking is more needed than ever. And then when you get to the far east end at Highland will be a roundabout. Now, these roundabouts have been reviewed by FDOT. They meet all the design standards for trucks. I know at one point there was discussion about Coca-Cola coming through this intersection with their 18-wheelers. That is accommodated. What we put in the middle of the traffic, the roundabout, is what's called a truck circle. It's essentially an additional 10 feet of concrete pavement that if the truck was to come out of Coca-Cola or the future use of that area, that they'd be able to go into the roundabout and head back to US 19 without any issues. These roundabouts are designed for EMS, for fire, for large trucks, and of course the vehicles. What happens in a roundabout design is those that are on bicycles will go up onto a multi-use path 10 foot wide instead of going into the roundabout with the cars. So they will be removed from the roundabout, they get into our multi-use path, and then if they wish to come back onto Skinner, they can do that and proceed on the travel lane, or they can stay on the multi-use path. We're expecting a dramatic increase in cyclists on the trail. Chelsea was kind enough to give me some real recent data. As of May 2021, on Mother's Day, which was May 9th, there was 2,300 crossings at the Pinellas Trail in Skinner, just in May on Mother's Day. You look at it in February, it's much higher. But just in May, the most recent data showed 15,000 crossings at that Pinellas Trail in Skinner in the month of May. 15,000 crossings, that's a lot of folks. So what the DOT has done with their special radar usages is that it's helped a lot with crashes. Now, I did hear there was a crash there actually last week that I'm still trying to get the report. But overall, when we go from a 4-lane divided road to a 2-lane, that the cyclist now is only worried about crossing 1 lane at a time, that's a huge safety advantage. Then on the east end of Skinner Boulevard, we continue with the 1 lane in each direction. We come up to Milwaukee, which is right in the heart. You can see the westbound left turn lane, very well designed to accommodate all future traffic. We show some parking spaces outside the Artisan East. And then as you pull up to Bassett, Maine, the geometry remains the same as it is today. You'll have the same turn lanes, the same through lanes, the same traffic signal, except that we would like to upgrade the traffic signal to a mast arm signal that will be a little more efficient, a little more visible. It'll be black in color, which fits the scheme of what we want to do in the CRA area. When I look at the level of service, the intersection will remain the same, level of service C or better, all the way out to 2023, with the exception of the PM peak, 4:30 to 5:30, that intersection will drop to a level of service D, as in David, which still is very functionable, which is still allowed by FDOT. Level of service D is still allowed to function properly without widening. So the future of this whole section should accommodate all the way to 2033. So this is what Skinner Boulevard looks like today. You roughly have a minimum of 90 feet to a maximum of maybe 105 in some areas. But as you can see, it's just a sea of asphalt. Mayor, you can see in the middle there, we got a reverse turn lane. I mean, that is pretty solid along the whole length of the corridor. And we want to make this road safe, still efficient. Capacity-wise, we'll work to the 2033 or beyond. But you can see that's what it's like today, and it's pretty drab. It is just a sea of asphalt, hardly any landscaping, very difficult walking facilities. So this is where we want to go. We want to go to a complete streets project. You might say that's the Artisan over to the right. But ultimately, we're going to have a raised grassed median that's anywhere from 10 feet to 16 feet with palm trees that would match what's outside the Holiday Inn Express. Essentially, they're called medjool palms, beautiful palms. That will be in the median that will be anywhere from 10 to 16 feet wide. The lanes will still be 12 foot, so EMS and fire still have the same laneage as they do out there, except it's now one lane in each direction. We will be adding bike lanes, 7-foot bike lanes on both sides that go the entire length of the corridor. We will provide parking either on the north or the south side. City staff can decide where those places really need to be. We'll also be providing PSTA turnoffs, so the bus literally would get out of the travel lane. And then if you look on the right side, we're going to have a multi-use path 10 foot wide that will accommodate cyclists and walkers in a nice wide space. And then on the north side, we'd have a 6-foot wide sidewalk. We want to look at sustainability issues. We want to go LED lighting. We want to go solar opportunities when we can. We've talked to Duke Energy already. They are looking at putting a price together for going undergrounding on the entire project. We want to be very efficient on this. We'd like to lower the speed limit. Today, it's 35 and 40 on Skinner Boulevard. We'd like to lower it to 25, which still will move traffic very smoothly through this whole corridor. So this is what the future would look like if you were sitting in your car looking down Skinner Boulevard. We have had tremendous success with the public. We've had 3 very large public workshops years ago. At least a minimum of 40 people attended each workshop. I know each one of your commissioners attended. FDOT was in attendance, Fort Pinellas was in attendance, but the public turned out and we had excellent conversations. Each one lasted an hour and a half, great questions. We got an opportunity to respond to those. And then I was very proud to say that at least 50 people showed up on a Saturday morning. Thank you to Louisiana Bites, who are they called?
Oh, Happy Bites.
Happy Bites.
Happy Bites.
They provided coffee for everybody.
Yeah,
And we
happy-
sat under their oak tree when we all discussed the future of Skinner. You can see the drawing on the left. People actually got out and walked the sidewalks and said, wow, do we really need this driveway or do we really need this? Really interactive, a great opportunity, huge support. So that is really important, that the Florida Department of Transportation and Fort Pinellas really like to see that kind of positive attitude.
Yeah, that was made available with the $100,000 grant from Fort Pinellas. So we had 3 or 4 public meetings at the hospital. They were great to give us a room, and Jerry did a great job going ahead and, presenting there. So it was good interaction,
So what we'd like to do now is we have FDOT representative and Fort Pinellas representative would like to come up next. But before we do that, let me answer any questions that you have about what you've seen so far. And then I have some eye candy to show you.
Okay, Vice Mayor, questions?
Thank you. I love eye candy. I'm excited. When it comes to the design phase, and I know that we've had the public meetings, and back to your schedule in 2022, we've got a final design. How does that take shape? Who's involved? How comfortable can we be that the design we're seeing today in the presentation, how close is that to the final design, and what changes might we see?
Excellent question. the Florida Department of Transportation, as of what I know now, is going to be the driving force behind this design project. They typically take 6 months prior to an advertisement of a project like this to get all of the issues on the table, whether it's drainage, type of lighting, type of trees, typical sections of what the road should look like, when would we have public meetings, et cetera. So I think you're going to see FDOT, and they're here, and if I say something wrong, please share. But they're going to take 6 months to start putting all this together and then get the ad out, possibly in the springtime, to make sure that all of these elements are put into the design. That will be probably Jorge, as the representative of the city, sitting down with FDOT, and I welcome for me to be there, to make sure that all these design features that we're talking about, you know, type F, type curb gutter, certain type of irrigation, how much square yards of grass we want to have. Should these drainage pipes be salvaged? Because the drainage system out there today is really good. You've never had any flooding on that road, and as far as I know, it's an excellent system. So I would say to make sure that these things get incorporated, and I'm not pushing anything on Jorge, but he will have to be the representative of the city. I would be glad to support that in meeting with FDOT to make sure these elements get into the design.
It would probably be Russell Ferlita. He is our city engineer now. Jorge's our deputy city manager, right?
I'm sorry, yes, Russell.
Yeah, yeah, we're certainly going
Let
to,
me just correct all of you. It's going to be our new transportation planner.
Not the engineering portion.
No.
well,
I'm just saying,
yeah, I think,
amenities.
I think with the capital improvements that we have, we're certainly going to look into how we stay in touch and how it's managed. So, yeah, we'll definitely all get together and make sure it works well and we get what we need.
So as mentioned earlier, this will be a village of people from the
That's
city making sure it happens.
I think your question is will we get to see the final design before, I mean, we're going to see it, right?
And or have a say-so.
Oh, absolutely. Russell will be the final sign-off of what is going into the scope. Then that scope will be put out on the street, and then multiple consultants, or however FDOT is going to offer this, they will put together proposals of what they think follows that scope by FDOT. Once that scope is signed off and a consultant is put on board, there'll be multiple opportunities for the commission to review stages. Probably the very first important one will be the 30% design. That's where essentially it shows what that finished product's going to look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll have multiple opportunities during design to see the product.
Yeah, as you recall, it's really going to be the design as far as, it's $1 million thereabout for the design. We're going to be contributing quite a bit, and Forward Pinellas is also going to be stepping up. So, yeah, we'll get to see this quite a bit to make sure that it meets the goals that we want to accomplish.
And in that answer, I never heard the county involved in that. So is the county no longer involved or past the county? Is that going to go before them again?
Well, Forward Pinellas is the county arm of this.
Yeah,
Right.
Not the county government.
correct.
Yeah, I would say
I guess
Forward,
it was Forward Pinellas, I'm sorry.
It's Forward
It is
Pinellas.
Forward Pinellas.
I would say Forward Pinellas will be involved, but more of a back scenes involvement. Their greatest interest is probably the trail crossing, of how that will operate, how the design will function. And then, of course, PSTA will have involvement along the process, but the main player will be FDOT and the city.
Okay, thank you. And on the view where it shows the bike lanes and the travel lanes, it shows 7 feet, and that's for the bike lane, and I'm on page 20. It's 7 feet for the bike lane, but that also includes the stripage there. Do we know, and I know this is just kind of the design phase, do we know what kind of actual width we want for the bike lane itself?
FDOT has been changing its standards based upon a lot of history of data of, for instance, in this case, if you look at that drawing, we show 7 feet, but we show roughly a 2-foot striped buffer between the car and the cyclist. So ultimately, the bike lane is roughly 5 feet wide, but then a 2-foot buffer. In urban areas like this, if we put parking there, Now you need to make sure that you understand that that person's going to open their car door to that bike lane. So sometimes that 2-foot airspace, as we call it, could be up against where the cars are parked. So when you open your car door, there's still a 2-foot space that you're not intruding with the cyclist. I would say that 7 foot is probably going to be the standard width. And the reason being is no larger is because we got a multi-use path, 10 foot wide, to the far right of the right-of-way that the cyclists, most cyclists that are going to be on Skinner Boulevard are the serious ones. The regular cyclists, the people pushing carriages, et cetera, are going to be up on the multi-use path.
Is that
But-
going to be confusing for the pedestrians?
No, that could be, because
Because with
on,
bicyclists, the cars don't want them in the road. The pedestrians don't want them on the sidewalk. And so bicyclists are screwed no matter where they go. I'm sorry to use that phrase. And so the idea that we're building something that is innately confusing for the pedestrians, how come you're on the sidewalk and not in the bike lane? It's going to be the constant complaint that we'll hear.
like what they do on the Pinellas Trail, in some sections, it actually is marked for cyclists, in some sections for pedestrians. That could very easily be done on the multi-use path. But because of the number of true hard cyclists that you have in this area, you heard the numbers just going across the trail. I think it's advantageous to have an exclusive lane out on Skinner, and we have the room to do that for the serious cyclists. And I'm not so sure there'll be confusion, because if a family's out there and they have your child that's just learning to ride a bike and maybe they got training wheels, they're going to be on that multi-use path. And those that are maybe going to elementary schools, et cetera, they're going to be on the multi-use path. So I'm not so sure. I mean, we'll be glad to look into it, but DOT's studied this type of stuff for a long time, and that's pretty much the standard that they like right now, a 7 foot wide bike facility with some cushion.
Okay, and that 2-foot barrier, right now it is just stripage.
Just
And so there's no physical barrier between the bike lane and traffic?
At this point, it's just stripage. I believe you're driving to the point where now a lot of downtown areas are actually putting in true bicycle lanes with curb, gutter, and you're in your own facility away from the cars. That's a trend that's happening. That may happen on this boulevard. I'm not sure. That would be a DOT decision in working with the city.
Okay. And then as I just so I make sure I understood it right, on those sections of Skinner where there is going to be some parallel parking, that is going to be on the traffic side, so when they open up that door, it's going to swing into that buffer area, not the bike lane. Is that?
That would be the intention,
Then the
yes.
intention. Okay. All right. No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner questions?
You know, Jerry, I love the reverse turn lane. Thank you for letting me laugh today. I have not been happy until I heard your new spin, and now I just love it. You really you had me when you started talking about LED. I'd really, I'm for it in the pavement, and I think we're going to be able to prove it with Douglas when we ever get that one done. And would that be workable in the trail? Because the trail crossing is, we've all known, and everything continues to go up, usage, that it is a real flashpoint of pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists. I mean, it's just a real flashpoint. So whatever we can do to continue, and I get you that it's going to be 2 lanes. So you're eyeballing someone when you're going across. Of course, I see a lot of people that still don't even care. I mean, and I'm sorry, some of them are bicyclists, but they don't push the button, they don't do anything. I'm training. But
I understand, no.
yeah, I mean,
You can
and
finger point everywhere.
we can, and pedestrians are always in fights with bicyclists, and bicyclists think pedestrians are Neanderthals, and I get that. But come on, it's a flashpoint. So whatever we can do there. My other question is, I'm wondering where this multi-use path, where does it go? I mean, does it end?
To the trail.
It's going to go all the way from Bass intersection.
Okay, but it ends at Bass.
Ends
So
at
it
Bass.
goes to Bass to the trail. So what you may see is people coming along the trail and saying, oh, instead of trying to hazard my way across Skinner, I'll just whip up that way, right? So you might be able to take some of the usage off by sort of providing that U shape. But, you know, I think more important is where it might go in the future. I mean, is it just meant to go there, and then what do? You swing around back to Maine? How could that go further? That's my question.
The future could very well be, Florida Department of Transportation is actually studying right now State Road 580, the balance of it east of Bass. And it may very well be in their vision that this multi-use path should go all the way to Belcher Road.
I agree.
It's just
I
a
mean,
vision.
I think that would be really
Thank you,
good,
Jerry.
because now we're sort of looping. I mean, basically, we'll get to one place, and then you loop back to, well, either you walk back on the same pathway, or you loop back through Maine. But it may take some of the pressure off the trail, the
Yes.
trail crossing. I
If
guess.
I can just comment for a second. The reason we put that multi-use trail on the south side is because of the future. Everything is oriented between Main Street and Skinner. It's all walkability, walkable. And to have that multi-use pass on the south side makes a lot of sense with the Artisan coming in, with Meese Life coming in. There's going to be more pedestrian activity ever, so we really felt on that south side was the best side to put it.
I have no problem with that. It's sort of like when you come down to the end of the road, the yellow brick road, where's it gonna go? You know? I mean, if you're gonna vision it, you think that it should continue. And I totally agree with that. I do want to say thank you. Sometimes I haven't been really nice to the FDOT. So I have to say thank you very much. You've done a really good job on this endeavor. Yeah, and you've been really wonderful and forward, Pinellas. Thank you always. Thank you very much. So that's it.
John?
Yes, thank you. I had a question, comment, and you just brought part of that up, and that is that study of 580 that FDOT is doing. And I think this is a great recommendation, suggestion, as they look at this, that hopefully they can take that upon themselves as well, all the way up to Belcher, and perhaps even further. But that's not our concern if it goes further than that. It's great, because we really need that looked at, and that's why they are looking at it, I would guess. Would you look at number 17, please, for me, and then in relationship to number 19? And what I'm talking about, if somebody can't see this, I'm talking about where we come off of Alt 19 and come and are heading east on Skinner. The number 17 almost makes it look like there's two lanes. There's certainly two lanes heading west, and I understand that. That's perfect. 2 lanes heading east, I don't understand, but I also don't understand it. So in 19, it doesn't show that. So perhaps it's not. And I bring that up because I've studied that intersection a lot, and I've actually spent time there watching the eyes of the driver, because we've been concerned, and you've heard me talk about that before, Jerry, I think, concerned about the trail. And so I assume we're not trying to merge there. Is that correct? 17 almost makes it look like we're merging. We're not?
Actually, 17, if you're at the intersection of alternate 19 and you're looking east down Skinner, there are 2 lanes that are going to be there, and the outside lane has to merge in, so it's only 1 lane that crosses the trail.
I'd like to really red flag that for you guys and have somebody really look at that. I don't think that's a good idea at all. There's too much jockeying, there's people that are watching, well, you'll see, just spend 30, you've spent a lot of time down there, Anybody else just spend 15 minutes and watch what happens. And the people are trying to jockey, figure out who's looking at what, and cars on the right's trying to decide if the car on the left is going to go, and goes on and on and on. So I would just really caution that big time. And perhaps that parking needs, that whole thing needs to start down at what number 19 shows.
My personal observation, I've been through that intersection since Skinner was widened. I pulled my boat through there, and I've watched all of exactly what you're saying. What I would like to propose, and we have to talk to Pinellas County and FDOT, is I really believe that if we improve the safety of that traffic signal, so let's say you're making a southbound left turn to go east on Skinner, that we make that a red, yellow, green. You can only turn left when the arrow is on. And then you make the northbound right to go east under its own control, red, yellow, green arrows. So the two can never conflict. They will always go as an independent movement. We eliminate that kind of weaving maneuver. And yes, I'll take a look at your concern again. It's definitely a valid concern. Then maybe we don't need to have that weaving if we can make that signal operate that way and work safely. So.
One more comment then, in concert with what I was saying. You will absolutely, in my opinion, correct one of the big issues there. And one of the big issues is those two vehicles together there. It's tough enough having one of them there, I think, particularly in the sun, because that heads into the sun. And there is, unless you overhead that or under it, and I looked at the company that does the unders, and we know the companies that do the overs, unless you do that, I would not have that approach, the double approach for safety for the trail.
Thank you.
Commissioner Franny, questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Well, my main question really, Jerry, is can you walk through again, and maybe you kind of said it, I didn't really catch it in any detail, but how the pedestrians, the bicyclists, and golf carts traverse the two roundabouts, going in and going out?
Yes, great question for those who maybe didn't hear. How does the vehicles, golf carts, bicycles traverse through the roundabout? The Florida Department of Transportation and Pinellas County and Fort Pinellas have done research for years and years and years on roundabouts, and they were really frowned upon for several years, including some that have been done in the immediate area 10, 15 years ago. And they've learned a lot about how these roundabouts work, not only with regular vehicles, but trucks, et cetera. And in this case, the way these roundabouts will work on Skinner Boulevard is they are primarily designed to accommodate vehicles, cars or trucks through these roundabouts. Bicycles, walkers, strollers, scooters will actually have to go up onto the multi-use path, which goes around the roundabout to a dedicated crosswalk that you would cross the side street, like maybe Douglas or Highland, and then go back up to the multi-use path again and continue down the road. So we really don't want anything but automobiles and trucks within the roundabout, and they're designed for that. The multi-use path and sidewalks, including the cyclist that actually, if he's out on Skinner Boulevard, he too has a little apron that he can drive up onto to get to the multi-use path, cross on the side streets crosswalk, then go back out to the path. And if they want to go back out to the road, that's fine as the serious cyclists. So the design really is for vehicles and trucks within the roundabout, and we want to separate that. As for golf carts, that is still up in the air. Because we want to have, and the DOT now has what's called target speeds. They go into a city or a county and they say, what should this corridor look like? Should it have great landscaping, parking, bus space, et cetera? And then we should have a target speed. So I have talked to the Department of Transportation that we'd like the target speed on Skinner Boulevard to be 25 miles per hour. Now, what that could mean is if you're in a golf cart, you're probably not going to be able to be on that road. But if you're in a multi-use golf cart that's street legal, you literally could drive on Skinner Boulevard because it's less than 30 miles per hour, which is what is allowed by Florida statutes. But regular golf carts will not be going into the roundabout. They will be crossing, if they need to cross, still at Bass, and then there's a potential of another crossing that could be worked out maybe at Milwaukee by the park.
I'm going to interject here, because at our last discussion about this boulevard, we did ask for additional crossings at how they could cross at Highland and/or Douglas through the roundabout. I mean, we specifically asked for that, and if it's 25 miles an hour, why wouldn't golf carts be allowed on it? I understand it's a state road, but in general, they have to be on roads at less than 30, and if it's less than 30, I don't understand why they couldn't be there to begin with.
Yeah, I think one of the things I understand, Mayor, keep in mind is kind of incrementalism. Everyone supported and achieved, and Jerry was part of that, to get the golf cart crossing at Bass. That broke new ground. Here we are looking to take a state road from 4 to 2 and drop the speed limit. So all this is really happening, and the support from DOT and Ford Pinellas, frankly, has just been outstanding. The participation, the interaction, and the coordination. So I think we're in a pretty good place, and we certainly know that golf carts are an important
Well,
component
and
of
even
downtown.
if we don't push for the golf carts to be on the road itself,
Yeah.
the allowable crossings, because again, we are developing our, revitalizing or vitalizing our East End, right?
Right.
You don't want the golf carts to only have one access. If we are truly trying to look at our entire downtown, they need to have other accesses coming from the north. And, if we are down to the 25 and keeping stuff moving, it just seems like there could be a crossing, at least at Highland, which again alleviates traffic on that east end.
I'd be glad to talk with George about those kinds of issues. I know golf carting in Dunedin is really growing every day. There may be more opportunities for additional expansions of the trail plan. So I'd be glad to share that.
And I think it has to be considered in the design phase.
Sure.
That's what's important. You don't want the afterthought, because then you do have safety issues. But, I mean, it's something we asked for before, so I'm hoping it's not a surprise that we're sitting here talking about it again.
It is not a surprise.
No, it's not a surprise. I think the other thing, too, I just wanted to, this is a really comprehensive, multidiscipline, a lot of players involved project.
Yeah.
So we're hearing all this input, but no, that doesn't come as a surprise.
Okay.
And listen, just in the last month or so, Ford Pinellas is stepping up. I know you're still on the board there, Mayor, which is great, to help with the design. DOT is now going to take over the design and construction. We didn't even know that 2 months ago.
Right.
So things are quickly fluid, very developing.
Okay, sorry, Commissioner Franny. Go ahead.
Well, I'm having trouble. Hopefully you guys are hearing me a little better. I'm not sure why, but so I'm trying to speak up. Jerry, I'm still having trouble understanding like the bikes. So if I'm looking at page 17 and I'm looking at the crosswalks, are you telling me the bikes are going to have to go the same way around the crosswalks? They can't go in the roadway?
That is correct. FDOT's guidelines today are that the cyclist goes up onto a multi-use path around the roundabout at a crossing on the side street, which could be Douglas or Highland, and then they go back up onto the multi-use. But then there'll be a little apron that the serious cyclist, if they don't want to stay on the multi-use path, they can come back down onto Skinner in an actual bike lane, 7 foot wide, dedicated for bikes.
Okay, I'm sorry because I'm still struggling with it, but you're saying the serious cyclist still doesn't go around the roundabout, or there's an apron there that they can take around the roundabout?
That is correct. The serious cyclist is supposed to leave the roundabout and go into a separate area for the cyclists and walkers, et cetera. That's the latest guidelines from FDOT.
And I guess I'm just struggling because I guess I asked you, it doesn't, maybe I'm just not picturing it right, but it doesn't really sound like it doesn't sound realistic that they do that, but.
Well, I would like to share your issues also with FDOT. Of course, they're here. They're listening to this presentation. But on a road that is posted at 25 miles per hour, very similar to what we have on Edgewater Drive, they have pavement markings called sharrows, which they put down on the pavement to dedicate that that road can be used not only by vehicles, but by cyclists, and they have the same rights as a driver does in a vehicle. So because Skinner Boulevard is going to be posted at 25 miles per hour, it may make sense that that cyclists go into the roundabout because it's the same speed as the vehicles. Now, that has to be discussed with FDOT because that really doesn't follow their policies, but there's always opportunities for variances and exceptions, et cetera. And we'd be glad to share your comments with George and Forward Pinellas and FDOT about should that serious cyclist remain in the roundabout versus going out and adding more traffic on the multi-use path.
My final question is, it was my understanding that under 30 miles per hour, a golf cart could ride on a road regardless of whether it's got a plate on it or not. Am I wrong on that?
George, is anything under 30 miles per hour, a city golf cart can go on it? I'm sorry, I'm asking George. He's in the
George, you're going to have
audience.
to come up. George, you're going to have to come up. Speak into the microphone. Well, I think it depends on what road, whose road it is.
Commissioners, I don't know without doing some research on that.
He doesn't know the answer to that.
I think the mayor's correct. It kind of depends upon which road.
I think who owns the road is the thing. I mean, the guideline, the general, if you look at what is it, traffic planning, the guideline is if there is going to be a golf cart, it has to be under 30 miles an hour.
Right, and as you know, there's a distinction between the golf carts and the low-speed vehicles as well, so I'd have to look at.
We're talking golf carts.
Right.
And also, you know,
Yeah.
the city has a golf cart plan of where golf carts should be on those roads. But we can look into that, Commissioner, and get back with you. George and I will talk that through.
Yeah, if you could. I mean, I have a non-plated golf cart and I'm getting it plated, but it was my understanding that under 30, you know, you could be on that road. But, and if there's some differences, obviously we want to not have extra confusion.
Like,
That's it. Thank you.
One thing that's clear with FDOT is you can't be on an FDOT road without, in other words, if you want to cross an FDOT road, it's got to be approved by them for golf carts as a crossing like we did at Bass in Maine. You just can't go out and drive on an FDOT road in a golf cart.
I also thought that depended on the speed, but if you're going to look into it, that's great.
Yes, we will. We'll get back with you and the commission.
Okay, any other questions, Commissioner Franny?
No.
Okay, Jeff spoke up first. You said you had additional, because I also have some questions, so why don't I just get to mine and then I'll come back around, because we've got 20 minutes and we've got Forward Pinellas and FDOT here that also have things to say. So, the mast arm you mentioned, is that on all the lights at that intersection?
The mast arm is the overhead span wires that are at the main
Right,
path.
so all of that will be replaced with mast arms,
We're looking at that to make sure
or
we
how
get.
that will be set up?
Yeah, right now, we're looking at how we can include that with the funding. So
Gotcha.
there's some funding considerations here, because we're also looking to get utilities on the ground, so.
For the entire boulevard?
Which
Okay.
is a big deal.
Right,
Because
no,
you have
it is.
services to all the different
It
businesses.
is, but we have to, those lights just hanging there. I mean, I just pulled it up on my Google Earth just to look at it again. It's awful.
Yeah, we're looking at.
Absolutely awful. And if we're really trying to paint a picture here,
We're looking at, could be $1.5 million on that.
right.
The underground?
Yes, yeah, that's a preliminary, very preliminary estimate.
Don't forget, we've got American Recovery Act.
I'm
Our site.
welcoming it.
Yeah. And we did talk also, I remember back when we were first looking at this, sort of boulevard lighting.
Yes, we are, excuse me, Mayor, we are looking at decorative lighting. We don't want to just see the stand-up Cobra-type lighting, and DOT understands that.
Yeah, well, it doesn't mean we can't have both, depending on what we're doing.
Well, we're
You know,
looking at
not-
decorative.
When I say Cobra, I don't know what that means, but like, if you look at the lighting that's on,
We did it on Alt 19.
East Lake, is it East Lake? That goes past Booker Creek, is that East Lake?
Yeah, it could be.
If you look at that lighting, it's still different than the normal lighting you
Yeah.
see. It's more attractive, but it's the higher light. And then, of course, you want to have your walking lighting, which is different. And I am no expert to know
Well-
how that all happens, but we want it boulevarded looking.
Yeah, we have the decorative lighting on Alt 19 right now that we worked with DOT. I mean, does it require special footer and things? But if you look at Alt 19, they're just by the Purple Heart Park, you will see
Yeah,
our decorative lighting
I'll
right
have to
there.
go by and look.
I think the one thing we all want to be real concerned about is clutter.
Right.
You know, is lighting clutter.
And then, of course, we want to have, the attractive street furniture signage, the black line signage and the attractive bus stops, that type of thing.
You want to do a pull-off?
No, but I mean the bus, whatever. Any furniture, I'll call it furniture because I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
That's on the road, we want it to
Amenities.
be
Amenities.
decorative. There you go.
Amenities.
Yes.
All that'll be looked at, and some might occur, and then some might be a second phase. This is, I certainly want to get across, this is a huge initiative.
I understand.
So this is very large.
I understand.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
the roundabouts. I know this is like a double-edged sword question. What are we going to have in the center of those roundabouts? Because I think we should have something.
Not a fountain.
No, of course not.
No.
But I mean, I do think there needs to be,
We can look at landscaping, and we can look at art, we can look at a lot of different things.
I mean, I'd love to see art.
Okay, again, funding,
That'd be very
so
cool.
that's something that, if there's funding, sure, we can do that.
I'm just saying something.
It's a big
Something
area.
that speaks to Dunedin, something different, something
That would
unique.
be very
I
cool.
don't know what. Maybe it should say Dunedin. I don't know, but
Yeah, it's a big canvas that can certainly have some type of element that fits in with Dunedin.
I think a petting zoo would be nice.
There you go.
Dog park.
I think installation art would be killer. in
it's
there.
something, just something that's
Yeah.
unique,
And,
and
and again, we gotta get DOT's permission, state road.
I get it.
Okay, well,
They're here. so
we're going to
we-
be
we'll
nice
say-
to DOT now, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to say was, this is really cool that Whit and Chelsea and whoever from FDOT has worked with FDOT to get them to sort of take over on the design thing. I think it'll be more efficient.
Huge.
I think they know what they're doing. Not that we don't, I don't mean it that way, but I mean,
They're the experts.
Well,
they are the experts, and to have them manage that process, I think is.
it saves a step, too.
It
would
does.
be no sense for the city to go
It does,
forward.
it's so much more efficient.
We would have to go out for an RFP, we have to get a consultant, we'd have to manage it, and then we get to DOT, and there's still revisions and edits. So
Right.
it's certainly more timely.
Okay, so before we go on to further questions, okay, because I have to let everybody ask further, I would like to at least allow FDOT and Forward Pinellas to come
Yeah, let me
forward. So
introduce,
who wants to do what?
Let me introduce Chelsea Farrell, Planning Manager. They can come up together if you're
Yeah.
comfortable. And Justin Hall with DOT. They've been tremendous as far as helping us get to this point. As I said, this thing's been very fluid in the last really 45 days. DOT said, yes, we'll take over the design. And then we worked together on the funding, and then Chelsea and Forward Pinellas stepped up with
And
additional
don't
funding.
forget, we got extra funding from Forward Pinellas.
No, that's what I just mentioned.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just stepped it up. It's $1 million for design. The city's putting in $600,000, and then Fort Pinellas is $640,000, $670,000, I can't remember. So it's quite a substantial sum. And then DOT's been fantastic. They want to make their mark too, and they certainly want to get this
Our
project going.
overhead doesn't work.
No, that was
Oh,
more for her. I have the
gotcha.
numbers broken out on the table,
Okay.
so she can see the breakdown.
All right, well, good afternoon. Thank you all for having us here today. I'm Chelsea Rivera with Ford Pinellas. We're really excited about your project and to partner with you on it. This is one of the first projects that we're going to see actually go under construction through our Complete Streets program that we just started a few years back. We just added it to the priority list about a year or two ago, and then we had a meeting with FDOT, and they say, hey, we have some extra funding through a stimulus package. What projects, should we consider? And we immediately called your staff at Dunedin and said, hey, if we can find the funding, can we accelerate this project project. So we've been working really hard on this for the last couple of months with your staff and FDOT, and we're excited to see this move forward, and however we can partner with you to make sure this is successful going forward, we're open to that. So I'll let Justin speak, but I just wanted to kind of take the time to introduce myself and look forward to working with you all.
Let me just mention too, Chelsea's where you got the roundabout in Palm Harbor too. There's another traffic circle, right, that's happening there. So traffic circles are now the new trend. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay.
We'll see.
And I don't think I really need to add too much, because I think we've talked quite a bit about this project. But obviously FDOT, will be very involved moving forward, taking care of the designing and construction as far as the management's concerned. And, the roundabouts, a lot of people are a little hesitant. In fact, we just constructed a roundabout up in Pasco County out in the middle of nowhere in Trilby Road, and then Trilby was in Hernando and one in Pasco. And the community's come back, a bunch of cattle farmers, and they love it. So they were really hesitant pulling their trailers through. We had a chicken farm close by. I was worried about pulling their semis through. And these new mountable curbs and the aprons, the trucks seem to like it. Actually, they prefer that they don't have to worry about, and they can predict what speed they need to go through to get through the intersection, instead of having to worry about the signal, turning red, and then they have to, use their air brakes to stop. So you're going to find that actually a lot of people are going to support it. In fact, Coca-Cola, when they see the actual design, most likely will support the roundabout when they see the apron. That's always their concern, is if there's a truck apron or not.
So you heard all of our feedback, some of which you have control over, some of which we need to address. But I think, looking at the lane that Commissioner Torngo talked about, I think looking at additional crossings for golf carts, regular golf carts, because, again, we don't want all the backup traffic on Main Street on our east end. Once that revitalizes in 10, 15 years, as it all happens, that's exactly what's going to happen. So we have to accommodate for that and get another crossing.
Yeah, and we have quite a few steps to go through before we set a speed limit. And honestly, even the lane repurposing or the lane reduction hasn't been approved yet. So there's a lot of steps we have to go through to get there. And
we get it.
So, there'll be a lot of conversations. In golf cart crossings, as you know, we've talked about Fort Pinellas, the state statute is the biggest challenge there.
Yeah. And then just making sure the whole bike thing and all of that, I think you heard that. I know that you have various rules about what's in the medians. We don't want crepe myrtles in the medians. Again, I know we'll end up managing that, but we do want to continue with the big trees that are down by alternate 19 and bring them all the way up. I know sometimes FDOT has issue with that, so we want to make sure the medians are wide enough to accommodate those things. I'm just trying to think of anything, other big things that we needed to make sure FDOT heard.
And we can come back, honestly, after 30% plans and have a workshop. This isn't going to be something that we're going to do in a vacuum, I can guarantee you that.
Well, the fact that, this has been a big deal, and of course, we just did the approval for the Gateway project not too long ago. And so all of us were very worried about the traffic impacts. So we all wanted to see Skinner move up so we can get that left turn lane in there, because between the time they'll probably finish construction fall of 23 or in almost fall of 21. So there's going to be a period of time where it's going to be like the wild, wild west there. So being able to move that up was really good for all of us. We thank you from both entities working with us.
I think the big next step that you'll see will be the next time we come before the commission will be for the local funding agreement, which will to memorialize the Fort Pinellas' portion of the design funds and the city's portion of the design funds, so we can actually start the design. And I know that Jensen Hackett's here with me. He's working on the local funding agreement. So as soon as we have that ready.
Just email it to us. We'll throw it on an agenda. We don't have to make a big deal out of it. We can do that very quickly.
Sounds good. Yeah, and actually we're skipping a step for speed for the design, and we're actually not going to procure a separate design contract. We actually house several on-call design contracts through DOT, and we're actually going to use this. We use one of those contracts to design this. So
very good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any final questions, Commissioner?
Yeah, this one, it can be considered tongue-in-cheek, but it's actually serious. Jerry, you talked about, we're going back to the roundabout and bicyclists going through there. and you use the term serious bicyclist several times, and I just want to know, does DOT have a definition? Is there a definition of what a serious bicyclist is?
I don't believe there is.
Yeah, because I'm anticipating that you're more serious, the less risk there is, and so the slower we make traffic, the more the ordinary bicyclist becomes serious, just because it's on a comfort level of the road. So I think we'll have more bicyclists in the road than we think we may. And then also, when it comes to complete streets in general, and the number that have been done, within those studies, is there any study that's been done that shows that they actually reduce traffic? Because car drivers might get frustrated with the reduced speeds, they're looking for that faster route, so they'll move on down the road looking for that quicker, straighter line.
I would say yes, there are studies for not only reducing speeds, reducing volumes, reducing crashes, reducing, Complete Streets is all about 6 or 7 things that they want to improve by using a Complete Streets. I'm sure there are studies that show traffic went somewhere else just because it wasn't that fast to go through that corridor anymore. If you want, I'd be glad to find some of those and share them with the commission.
Not if we have to pay you for it. No, I'm good.
I would think people would more be inclined to use Belcher and Keene going southbound as opposed to.
I would think, well, and it goes back to Commissioner Torgan's questions at that intersection, which were legitimate questions, but I'm wondering, as that becomes a complete street, how much of that traffic on alternate 19 won't even use Skinner anymore?
Yeah.
That might help alleviate part of that concern and issue.
Certainly.
Was my thought. Anyway, thank you.
Commissioner, you had a question earlier.
Yeah, well, you're going to yell at me because it's not exactly, it is part of it, because if you look at the charros, is that what you call them on Edgewater Drive? The charros? Yeah. You know what that means to everybody? Hurry and get on the sidewalk or the linear park in their bicycle. I guarantee, I don't know what happened there, but while you're talking about 25 for Skinner, go ahead and talk about 25 for Edgewater Drive. We would love it.
That's another
25
meeting.
miles per hour. What?
That's another meeting.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, we just reduced
Yeah, I
that from
know,
35
and I
to
said-
30, and we were really lucky to get that, so
But-
let's.
But we're happy, but we could be happier. So,
Okay. Any other questions, Commissioner Torga?
No, thank you.
Any other questions or feedback, Commissioner Franny? Okay, thank you guys very, very much. Oh, I know you're going to show us the 3D. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, we forgot that.
Yeah. Well, that should be the most exciting piece of this whole discussion. All right.
Where's it at? Okay, so you're now proceeding east. You're crossing the trail right there, proceeding east to the first roundabout at Douglas. See how, and this is actually the amount of traffic that we estimate is going to be on this corridor in the next 7 years or so. And then you come up to the Highland roundabout. All this is to scale. We practiced this yesterday and it worked really well. It's a little jumpy today, I'm not sure. And then that's the Artisan project up on the right. And then you can see the road will start to curve into Bass. So we're starting over, in case you didn't see that. We just crossed over the trail again. We're coming up to the Douglas roundabout. It shows bicycles on the trail, walkers on the trail. Coming up now to the Highland roundabout. 1 lane in each direction, a lot of green space. There's going to be a lot of green space along here. All kinds of different style of landscaping. Here's the intersection at Milwaukee. You can see the very long left turn lane, cars going into the turn lane. And then you come up to Bass, and it's the exact geometry that's there today. Again, taking one more trip. Here's the trail crossing, going east around Douglas Avenue roundabout, proceeding east. The new development will be coming in there on that corner. We're going around the Highland roundabout. Coming up to the big vacant parcel that the Artisan East is at. There's Milwaukee. That shows some parking there. And these are just concepts still at this point, but it's to give you an idea of how the roundabout would actually work. So, Commissioner Tonga, that's where, you know, the two lanes merge into the trail, as you can see on there. We'll be taking a look at that real close to make sure that that functions properly.
Yeah.
Okay.
You saw that extra road I was talking about before,
Yeah.
right? You saw
It's
that.
on there.
Thank you.
Nick, can we switch to the other one? Now, I'll
Mayor?
show you just one more view, from kind of like the view of the driver, what he will see as they're going through the roundabouts. And it's almost like a drone sitting on top of a car. So here we are, we just came out of alternate 19. There's the trail crossing, down to one lane. We come up to the roundabout at Douglas. You can see the cyclist is up on the trail. There's the crossing. Multi-use trail on the side, a lot of green space, plenty of room for palm trees in the middle. The cyclist just came out onto the road. Cyclists will now go back up onto that little apron.
But why would they do that?
It's just the guidelines that the state is using right
I
now.
don't think they'll do it.
I don't think they're gonna do it.
Yeah, they're not going to do it.
That will be up
They're
for
not going to
discussion.
go off on the entire way. Cyclists are, I'm going this way, and the easiest way I can do that.
There's the cyclist back out on the road.
Well, people in general, not just cyclists, but people in general, they're not going to do that.
Pedestrians, I mean,
Oh,
Hey,
That was just to have a little fun.
what
come on, Jerry, don't do
go
that.
back there, I missed it.
Yeah, it was one car, well,
And then
drove
you come
right
up-
through it.
You come up to Bass, and here's all the original lanes back. So
Gotcha.
that's an
Interesting.
idea of what you would see driving and an idea from
That was wonderful.
300 feet up.
I'm sorry, really, I need to tell you, I'm sort of sorry, I've been sort of down on bicyclists today. I've just been cranky.
Everybody is. It's all right. It's all right.
Okay, good.
We fall down enough. We're skin stuff.
So
You
and
don't
this,
want you to be
this,
cranky,
this graphic can be tweaked as design goes on so that the public can actually see when we get to 30% design what this actually would look like. But this is just to give you an idea of what it would look like from a drone view, et cetera.
Well, and
That's-
then, so if you update it, make sure you put something representing the artisan there too. But yeah, I really do not believe that bicycles are going to go on and off that road.
I tend to agree with you.
Well, if that's the case, then we need to consider if it should even be there at all, you know? And if it shouldn't just be parking or something, because I think they're going to go the most direct route.
There'll be a lot of discussion with FDOT on this because it is 25 miles per hour, if that all gets blessed. Again, we're at the final concepts right now. DOT is going to have the ultimate say-so on design speeds, posted speeds, et cetera, but they're pretty comfortable with what they've seen so far. So I think it'll go through without much changes.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Wait a minute, Commissioner Franny?
no, I mean, so I'm just agreeing with you. And again, I'm not trying to go against the experts, but that doesn't seem realistic that those bicyclists are gonna go off track, go across the crosswalk. But, you know, you guys are the experts, but it doesn't make any sense to me that that's gonna be realistic. But, you know, I just look at that very heavily.
Sure will, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, we have already run over. So Jennifer, is there anything that you have to cover under any of these things?
There is not, Mayor. I'd like to cede whatever moments we had to the city attorney to talk to you about Senate Bill 60. It's
Okay.
important for all of you when
All
we
right,
have code.
Go
here.
ahead,
Thank you.
Nikki.
Mayor and Commissioners, I've been asked to give a brief oral update on Senate Bill 60, which was enacted as part of this past legislative session. It's a pretty
Excuse
short
me.
bill, but, Bill,
Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor, could you take the screen down? Could they take the screen down, please?
The screen?
Yeah, I'm
Justin,
still seeing the screen.
PowerPoint.
Oh, Justin,
PowerPoint,
can you,
He's on it.
he's on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sorry, Nikki.
No, no problem. Can you see us okay still? Or are we just
she's
small?
just seeing the
You,
screen
because
share.
I'm not getting the global look, but I got you now.
Okay.
That's fine, he's gonna take it down.
He'll take it down.
And she can hear you.
It's pretty short. It's one of the shorter bills that was passed in the last legislative session, but it has an important impact on the city's operations with regard to code compliance. So I understand some folks from the operations side are going to speak to how they are planning on addressing the bill, but this was the bill that prohibits code compliance complaints from being submitted anonymously. So the law now requires an individual making a complaint of a potential violation to provide his or her name and address to the local government before an investigation of the code complaint may occur. That is a summary of the update in the legislation, and I don't know if anyone from operations wants to speak on how the city is implementing the change.
Go ahead, George.
Sure, thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So in essence, basically, we're reading this bill with the understanding that the person that's making the complaint has to have firsthand knowledge of that infraction. And if a complaint would elevate to a court situation, that complainant would then be possibly drawn into that discussion. So that's the rationale. As a result, the commission probably knows we've always had a complaint portal as part of our website and as part of our community development operation. We've already actually discussed with the communications manager, Sue, about promoting that more actively and getting that word out there, and we're thinking of some ways to do that, but we'll continue to do that. But I just wanted to let you know that we have beefed up that section of the complaint portal to include some reference to the Senate bill, and we'll continue operating that in that fashion. And if you have specific questions, our code compliance supervisor is here.
Okay, any questions on any of this? Vice Mayor, questions?
The only question I have is, my thought, though, in the future, this bill was going to be, especially with the not allowed to be anonymous, was that now, all of a sudden, all the commissioners and the mayor would be code compliance, and they would just contact us to report it.
Well, they already are.
Well, right, and so, so what does that mean as far as must have firsthand knowledge of?
Well, so I would caution the commission to maybe think about redirecting those complaints directly to our office or to Chris specifically, because, and Nikki can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you really have to have a firm grasp. If you're going to represent a constituent, you're going to have a firm grasp on exactly what that complaint is, where it's located, and it would be basically your contact information then in support of that complainant. And you could be drawn into that situation that I described earlier. So my recommendation would be just redirect them. Get them to me, get them to Chris, get them to Joey. We'll walk them through the complaint portal if that's what they want to do. And if they don't and they want to remain anonymous, we can't act on it. So it's as simple as that. This law kind of requires you to put some skin in the game if you're a complainant. So that's where we're at.
So George and Chris, I asked the city manager this before, but I'll ask you. So it sounds like you're going to get more involved, or would have to get more involved in more of an aggressive approach of looking for some of these violations.
So, and we've talked about that, the difficulty there, Commissioner, is, and certainly if Chris or one of his team is going out to a violation and they see something, they're going to pursue that. But as you've seen in past presentations, they handle 200 calls a month. So we're in a difficult position to be proactive. And I'm just going to be honest. I mean,
Except it's going to get reduced, because there are going to be a lot of people who will not report.
And that very well might help.
I mean, it's to what degree will it be
affected?
Yeah, and if you're gonna, I don't think that the intent of the legislation was to encourage to move away from a complaint-based system. A complaint-based system is what guards against most equal protection claims under code enforcement, so it's not generally you want to have a balance there. To answer Commissioner Gow's point, the person who's making the investigation is often the primary witness, if necessary, in both code action, before the code compliance board potentially, or through other, that the code compliance board is one mechanism that the city can utilize for code enforcement. So there's many others, but that person is essentially the primary witness. So if you're not the primary witness, then, and also, I mean, I think as a commissioner, if you're going to appear as a witness before the code enforcement board, which you appoint, and testify as a witness, we'll need to talk about the potential quasi-judicial concerns for that, because as the advisor to the board, I would have concerns that the code compliance board would want to please their boss and accept the testimony rather than, giving that fair and impartial review of the evidence. So just keep that in mind. If you are, if you do witness personally and individually a code compliance violation that you want to report, that may make you a witness, and how that might affect the ultimate impartiality of the hearing that would need to occur before the code board. Because you do appoint them, so.
Just so you all know, I told the city manager last week, it's Tuesday today, last week I received 2 specific from very serious individuals telling me, hoping that I was going to do something about it, just so we're aware. I'm sure the rest of you.
Yeah, I've tried to do it too, but they won't investigate unless there's a name and number.
So I mean, I'm now not going to. I'm not going to get involved because of what was just communicated. Sorry, Jennifer.
I don't mean to interrupt. One of the reasons why Sue is here is that Sue has gotten together with George to put together the communications plan with your constituents and to provide all of you information with if somebody comes up to you and says, I have this, here's the information. This is where you need to, and it'd be as easy as a card to give to them. I know that's, as Sue says, old school. But, at least you'll have something to provide your constituents as far as reporting the violation.
Gotcha.
Question?
Commissioner Franny?
Well, I for one, I mean, this is bothersome because I get comments from very legitimate citizens, some who are afraid. I mean, I've had several situations where they're legitimately afraid. Sometimes they ultimately give up and give their name. Sometimes they just don't want to deal with it. Sometimes they're advised by our code people, you don't want to do this. This guy's a little out there. So I think it just makes it kind of crazy. For me, I guess, Nikki, I understand what you say, but so, I had one incident where I had literally like 4 people tell me about it. So all I did was basically tell our code people. So I guess, and I witnessed it myself. So what you're saying is, based on the potential for conflict of interest, I should just not do that. Give them the card, tell them to call this number and stay out of it? Because that's so against what we do as elected officials. That's my only problem with that.
The statute says that the city code, any employee charged with code compliance duties, so code enforcement officers is the term that's used in the statute. I know you use the word code compliance, but the statute prohibits them from initiating an investigation of an anonymous complaint. So if that complaint is essentially rendered anonymous by someone else submitting it on their behalf, particularly a commissioner, I mean, I think you have to be mindful of, we're not supposed to be going around the prohibitions in the statutes. We're supposed to be following them. So I think that if you receive information and people are reporting code compliance violations to you, you need to tell them that they need to contact the code compliance department and that the law does not allow for anonymous complaints. So it's out of your hands. The state legislature did this to you, and if they're upset about it, they can call their representatives. They can, do other things but the statutes are clear, and the city's code compliance officers are tied. And I think what they're saying, this is a little awkward, because I don't represent them before the code compliance board. I represent the code compliance board. But yes, if I had one of you come and testify, it would be an awkward hearing, and it would be one that we would do a lot of work to ensure that there was due process, ensure that everything that you had information on was provided to the violator, that all, I mean, so there's an additional layer there because of the nature of the board, and their responsibility to be fair and impartial, and you're the appointing body for that board. So I'm not saying it's, but so just be mindful of that. If you do witness something personally and you're making your own personal complaint, and you may then end up a witness to the case, the potential effects of that. And we can work through that in advising the Code Compliance Board, but it is an additional, we can't get anonymity simply by submitting the complaint through an elected official and then thereby getting around the statute.
Right, well, I understand. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd have to witness it myself. I'm going to probably assume that my fellow colleagues see a lot on their own and report things on their own. I certainly do. When I do see something myself, it's not unusual at all for me to report it. So at this point, we'd be tagged with that as the complainant, I guess.
Right.
And we would have to deal with all the fallout of what that means in terms of being a witness to our own board.
Potentially, yes. And the other thing you can do too is if someone sent you, for example, an email and they have their name and, you can just say, is it okay if I pass this along to the code, to the code compliance department? And then you can just forward it along for them instead of them telling them to go contact somewhere else or directing them to the page. But yes, if you're reporting the violation as well personally, then your name and address would be listed as the complainant under the new statutory requirements.
And my address would be the city address or my home address? Just ask me.
What?
City address or home address?
Well, no, if as a commissioner, I'm filing a complaint against the code, would my address be as a commissioner of the city of Dunedin, or would it be my home address as a resident of the city of
Says
Dunedin?
provide his or her name and address to the respective local government before an enforcement proceeding may occur. So it does not state home address, it says state his or her name and address.
I had one last question and then
Address
I'll be
isn't
quiet. My one last question to staff is, were anonymous complaints a problem for you?
So, looking at,
Sorry, I was just going to say move the microphone close, but I didn't see the other one, so.
so looking at the stats from last month, after Senate Bill 60, it looks like our calls went down, our call volumes went down. We did kind of see a little bit more of an uptick in email complaints where they're providing all their information. We were going out to less, I would say, vague calls where we're kind of searching around and maybe not finding it because we don't have that much information. And with an anonymous call, you can't call them back because they don't leave the information. This way, we can call someone back and find out, okay, was this the house you're looking at? Was this the violation? And also we were going out to less neighborly disputes. So we're able to focus on some of the bigger property maintenance issues. Still, even with Senate Bill 60, it does still allow code compliance to go out, be proactive. That's, I think, something, once we start the citations, the warning, then the citation, that's going to definitely help our capabilities. But I think currently we've been spending more time out in the field doing inspections and less time kind of as a call center.
Okay. No, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that input.
Are you able to give the number difference? You said it went down, but it went down by how much?
It was somewhere around, as far as like phone calls, I'm going to estimate.
Just complaints in general.
Oh, complaints in general? No, I have them differentiated by phone calls and emails, but our phone calls went down somewhere around 40%. But our emails ticked up, not too much more, but I mean, we're still getting them.
Complaint numbers, you can get us that at some future
We
time.
report that to the city manager as well.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out to the meeting.
Thank you for your time, Mayor. We thought that was important for you all to know.
Yeah, anything from you? Okay, and nothing from you, Jennifer?
No.
All right, I'd love to be able to just close this out without getting into commission discussion and comments if possible, because I do have an appointment.
Yeah, I've got an appointment too.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for watching this City of Dunedin government meeting. If you'd like to review any part of this meeting or watch any previous government meeting coverage, you can watch these meetings online anytime through the city's website, dunedingov.com. Stay connected with everything Dunedin. Follow the city on this channel and on the city's Facebook page, through Twitter, and on the city's YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching this Dunedin television production.